Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gamers Lounge podcast. My name is John Meadows. With me as always, it's Nidus and Nathaniel. No Eric tonight. He is on trips and cookouts, and he's doing that 4th of July thing that everybody else is. But I'm not, because it's hot and I don't want
This is our 4th of July.
Yeah, pretty much.
We do our 4th of July on the 2nd of July. Yeah. Get it in early.
I wouldn't even.
Although I would not be surprised if some random fireworks start going off outside.
Oh, I know it will here too. Our neighbors.
It's the weekend.
Our neighbors.
It's the weekend. It's the July month, so of course, why wouldn't you do fireworks?
It's actually been pretty quiet for fireworks here the past. Usually they start about a week or two before, but I'm guessing the fireworks guys really didn't set up till last week, and I saw what they had from the road, and it didn't look like they had a whole lot. So I'm guessing that a lot of people probably just wasn't buying because they didn't have a ton. So. But the neighbors behind us were setting them off right before I came down, so I'm like, great, we're going to hear M80s going off for the next hour and a half. But, I mean, whatever, it doesn't bother me. One of our dogs who passed away last year, she was scared to death of fireworks and thunderstorms and things like that. So she's not around anymore. I don't care. Let them set it off because Max doesn't care. He doesn't give two licks. He just sleeps through it. So Ella would pant and cry and go in the bathroom and hide for the whole duration of the 4th of July.
I feel like most dogs are like that, though. I wonder why. There's something about that sound that they just, and thunder that it terrifies them.
I guess it's loud, and they can hear it farther off than we can. So if there's 4 or 5 or 6 people setting them off, that's all they hear in their head. I guess I don't know.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think the world's coming to an end. Yeah. Probably.
That's how. Yeah, well, and that's how we knew when it was getting ready to storm. Is Ella would get up and run to the bathroom and hide and start panting. And it was like, well, it's not even thunder and rain. She could hear it that far off, and then all of a sudden it's like, here it comes. It's like, oh well. So
she getting flashbacks to John Cusack in 2012.
Yeah,
the world's just ending and everybody's going crazy.
She was
trying to get on that boat.
She was our barometer. We had our dog. Our dog was our barometer, so we knew when it was going to rain. But now that she's gone and it's just Max. Max don't care. He really don't. He could give 2 craps to the wind as long as he's warm and curled up on the couch and asleep. He don't care. He'll raise a head, go, all right, go back to sleep.
Yeah, cats don't seem to care much, really. Like, I mean, our 3 cats. I mean, because the fireworks actually went off not too long ago for a different thing. I can't remember what, but it was some parade that was close by, and they were like, whatever. Still sleeping like it was nothing. It's another day of the week.
Luna's small enough that when they go off, she's kind of like, what in the world? Oh, okay, it's nothing. And then goes back to sleep.
Yeah,
the first time it catches her off guard, but she'll get over that once she gets to be a little older. But 9 months.
If it doesn't involve treats, it doesn't concern me.
No. Treats are chewing on my feet. She likes to chew on my feet, and I don't know why. I thought it was just the socks, and I had my socks off for most of the day today, and she's still biting my feet. I'm like, okay, you really got to quit, because 1, that's gross, and 2, 2, it hurts.
But they always do that funny face afterwards too, where they don't know what they just, they just sniffed up. Yeah, their mouth open, just kind of.
That was a bad idea. That was a real bad idea. It's like, it was.
You can see the regret in their face.
I keep trying to tell you that, but you keep going back to that well. So it's whatever, dude.
Yeah.
It's come home from work, take my shoes off, and sit down and go, and the next thing I know, she's biting my dirty socks on my feet. I'm like, dude, that's gross. Oh, well, but we're not here about cats chewing on dirty socks. We're here to talk about video games. But
what if they did make a video game about that specific subject?
Well,
and what kind of weird mental state was the game developer in when they decided to do that project?
Stray is coming out this month, so
that's right. Stray is coming out.
Somehow, I don't know that biting dirty socks is going to be a major part of that game.
You never know. You never know.
It hasn't been in the trailer, so maybe they're holding that back as a surprise.
No, it hasn't. I actually went ahead and pre-ordered that game on Steam. I was going to
excited for it.
I thought, well, and they're bringing out it out physically on PlayStation 5 at some point. They haven't announced when it's coming out, so I'll buy it physically then. But I went ahead and bought it on Steam. I'm anxious to try it out on the Steam Deck, even though nobody knows if it officially supports it or not. But
I'm sure it'll be fine.
I'm sure it'll be fine too. As long I've found that any game that has at least full controller support runs fine on the Steam Deck with no issues. I even got was that just called Wolfenstein? Not the Return to Wolfenstein, but the one after
Youngblood?
that. No, it was the one that was made by Activision. I think it was just Wolfenstein.
Oh,
I do not remember.
I don't remember.
Yeah, those were the real old ones.
Yeah, I don't even remember what year that was. I even tried it out, and it works. It works on the Steam Deck. Wolfenstein, yeah, not that Wolfenstein. That's what's there. 2009 Wolfenstein. That's the one I was trying to think of. It was done by Activision Blizzard, and it was on the 360. Is what that originally was. It ran fine. But I even played.
Oh, okay.
I even downloaded SWTOR the other day just to try it out and see if it worked, and it works, and it works good. Play an MMO on your Steam Deck. What? I can't talk to anybody because I don't have my keyboard. I can hook my keyboard up, but I don't want to talk to anybody anyway. So it's.
Do they have like I've noticed more and more games have been having this lately, but is there like a speech to text thing in that?
I don't know.
Or is it too old for that? That's probably too old.
Probably.
For that, right?
But I'll tell you what's hilarious is, so I downloaded it and went to log in, and it was like, we need your security key. I was like, holy crap, security key? I don't even know where that thing is. And it was that little, you remember you had them for WoW and stuff before they came out with the app. They were the little keychain like.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. Well, I had to come down. I came downstairs and yanked the collector's edition box off the shelf, opened it up. Sure enough, my little security token thing was still in there. I'm like, oh, this thing ain't going to work. It's 11 years old. It's not going to work at all. Punched the button. Still worked. I was like, well, holy crap. All right. Put the number in, and it was like, hey, welcome back. You haven't been here in like 7 years. I went, yeah.
I was always tempted to get one for WoW because I knew people who had one. I always thought they were cool, but at the same time, it's just like I didn't trust myself nor the device enough to keep that long term. You know what I mean? So that's why I was like, thankfully they opted for, I think, just the other 2FA methods and shit.
Yeah, well, there's that, and then they have their own for the phone. Once I got an iPhone and they came out with that app, we quit using those little tokens. But we have two of them up in the drawer. One of them's a StarCraft one, one of them's a Warcraft one. And I actually, while I was punching that one, I went, well, I know there's some in that desk drawer. They're old too, and I punched them, and sure enough, they still work too. So I don't know.
Right.
But I mean, I guess when they die, they die. There's no way to replace a battery in them that I can see. Unless you just pop it apart.
They don't have a. Well, yeah, I was wondering if there was. Surely they have at least what do they call, like those little 25-volt, those little circular batteries that they can just pop in there.
It may. There's no like door to unscrew on it, so I'm guessing maybe you just pry the key apart. I don't know.
Interesting.
I haven't wanted to take one apart. Of course, those Warcraft ones are not on our account anymore since we went to the phones, but.
Well, those, I mean, can you even still buy those things? Are those still available or no?
I doubt anybody sells those kind of things anymore.
Yeah.
I figure it's all...
And that I'm always worried about with stuff like that. Because I don't even think Blizzard sells their WoW ones anymore, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't think so. I think they've all moved to the app on your phone since everybody's got a smartphone these days. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's a cool little memorabilia thing to have, but I mean, honestly, like, the practicality of it long term, is because imagine if you hadn't known that it was there in that box, right? Then you would just be you have to make a new account, probably,
I would have, or tear the house up trying to find it because I keep dumb stuff like that. I've just had boxes of stupid stuff like that.
Yeah.
Even when I cleaned out the basement, it was like, oh, here's a box of stupid cables. I really need to throw those away. No, I better not because I might need one someday, and then stick it in a corner somewhere, and then
That's what I do, especially with like a bunch of same thing, right? With a bunch of cables, HDMI cables, AV cables, you name it. So
yeah,
you never know.
Tons of stuff, you never know. So.
And I've surprised myself a couple times where I'm like, man, thank God I kept this, LAN cables, stuff like that, Ethernet cables, whatever. So.
Well, and sometimes with the Nikki smartboard, she'll need a VGA to the laptop to the smartboard, and she'll be like, do you have a VGA cable? And I'm like, yes, I do. It's like,
find it.
Yeah, give me a couple of days to find it, but I have one. It's like
I'll take you back to 2002, no problem.
Yeah,
I got it over here. Yeah,
yeah, it's out in the garage behind a bunch of stuff stacked up in the back. We just have to clear out some space to get to it. But yeah. So I mean, other than piddling on the Steam Deck, I bought that. I don't know how you say it. Anoa uh, game on Steam. It just
I've always called it like Ano Mutation.
Yeah, is that what it is?
What I've,
Auto mutation?
yeah.
I don't know. It
Yeah.
looked really cool, so I bought it. That's what I call it. Is it looked really cool, so I bought it. And I've only played it just a few minutes. And what little bit of it I played, it's really good. It runs at high on Steam Deck. It looks beautiful. But I haven't really played a whole lot more of it, so I'm going to play some of it this week.
It's really well optimized. I got a copy sent to me just before it came out. And yeah, it runs well, looks great. What drew me to that game right away, because I've been following the development for a while of that game, but man, like just visually that game is stunning. The sort of 2D pixels into like the sort of 3D space that are also sort of pixels at the same time. It's really well done and unique. It's great. It's great.
And I like how it's like it's side scrolling 2D, but it has 3D elements. You know, you go in and come back out and go around, and I like those kind of games. So it's like, oh, it's Cyberpunk 2. All right, cool. I'll buy it and play it. Like I said, I haven't fired it up yet because I've been playing stupid Eastward a lot.
So okay. We could talk about that because I've played that some too, and I think we have very different reactions to that game.
Oh, really? Do you not care for it?
I did not like that game because I would describe it this way. It is a game that has pretty art, which is why I kind of wanted to get it in the first place because it looked cool.
Yeah.
But it gets in its own way. And it wastes so much of my time that I was so frustrated playing with it that after that first session, I'm just like, I don't feel like playing it because it's wasting so much of my time it's not any one thing, it's a bunch of small things that just like, why can't I just skip dialogue like normal?
Yeah.
Like it still has to play through it even if it goes faster instead of like a lot of other games with a lot of text. You hit the like skip button, it'll just like go straight to its full there. It's not like spelling it out line. So it's like that takes extra time. Just the way that just you'll finally get to play something and then like it's sort of like a cutscene again every 5 seconds. I'm like, I just want to play the game. Let me play the game. Oh, cool. I play the game. I gotta do something for a couple minutes, but now we're talking a lot again.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Cool. And it's just like it felt like it was dragging on for me so much that it's just like I'm not enjoying this as much as I thought I would.
How far did you get? Did you get her? Did you get the girl to go to school? I mean, that's real early in the game. Okay, so that's as far as I got. That's actually.
I think I ended right when it was telling me that like, hey, her father character, whatever he's supposed to be, can go because it's open house day at school or something. I didn't actually do that part yet. It's just where I left off.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it is kind of, I'm getting in the groove. Oh, I'm hacking these, like at that little beginning there where it's like, okay, well, I got to go into this mine and I got to hack up the monsters or the slime things or whatever they were. I'm like, oh, that's really cool. And then you're right, it does stop, go into a cutscene, and then you have to go like, when you're done with that, you got to go all the way over to the other side of the map to fetch this, and then go all the way back to bring it back here, and then go all the way.
As soon as it gave me fast travel, I just teleported everywhere.
Yeah, once I got fast travel, that's what I did.
That's a bad sign if I'm doing that like an hour into a game.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
And objectively, it's not even that big of a map. I don't know. I think my problem with it was it's just too enamored with whatever story they were trying to tell, but they were telling it poorly, in my opinion. In that, like, okay, this whole scene here that was a cutscene, you probably could have done it with half the amount of dialogue and stuff that you did.
Yeah.
And then 5 minutes later, you're in another cutscene that's kind of repeating some of the same information a little bit, or just whatever. It's just like you don't get into a groove of doing any one thing at all, except for I'm trying to skip this dialogue because I'm bored and don't care what they're saying now because you keep bringing me back into it, and I don't care.
Yeah, that's the one thing I wish I could do is I wish I could just hit the button and all the dialogue would come up and just not. Yeah, you're not wrong. I don't know. I kind of got hooked on it. Like I said,
it's kind of a cool setup for kind of like what the game's story, what little bit I saw of it, just like the post-apocalyptic kind of thing. And hey, maybe the surface is cool because apparently they were in caves, which I didn't get at first that they were actually in caves. But hey, no, the surface has green plants, man. No, that's just a myth. That kind of whole setup. Plus, the art style is cool. It's just it didn't let me actually like get wrapped up in the world the way I would want to, because I'm just sitting here frustrated. Like, okay, I finally get to actually do something instead of just sitting here, and then like I do it for less than a minute, and I'm off sitting waiting again. It's just like I can't get a rhythm because it start, stop, start, stop, start, stop.
Yeah, you're not wrong. I mean, you're not wrong about that at all. I don't know, and maybe it's just kind of the type of game that I was wanting at the time. It kind of reminds me a little bit of like Mother or Earthbound.
I see that, yeah.
On the Super NES. That's kind of, and that's kind of what I was wanting, just something kind of laid back and not. I don't know how long, I don't know how long the game is. It doesn't seem like it's going to be like a 40-hour
I highly doubt that.
event, eventually.
If it's 40 hours, it's because the dialogue is so slow.
Yeah. and that's kind of what I've wanted. I've kind of wanted just a nice little 10-hour game, just something that it's not. I just haven't been in the mood. I kind of like. They did that update to Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West. I was like, I really need to boot that up again and play it a little farther. But at the same time, it's just kind of been like, ugh. I really don't want to play a big, long game right now. I just want something that I can play for a little while and go, and then put it down and then come back and play it a little more. And this one seems to kind of scratch that itch a little bit. So far anyway. I mean, but your gripes are you're totally right with your gripes.
It lost out because I bought several things on Steam. So I was like, well, I'm not enjoying this one. Let me buy this other or play this other game that I bought and try it out.
Yeah. That's what's bad with the Steam Summer Sale. It's like, I buy 7 things at once. Let me just try all these and go, okay, this is the one I really.
But when I'm picking out games that are like $10 at most each or something, and then a couple maybe that are a little more than that, it's like, it's okay if I lose out on whatever. It's not too bad. I don't even remember what Eastward was, but it wasn't. It wasn't pretty cheap on sale.
It wasn't too much.
Kind of like, okay, I didn't like it, but maybe I'll go back to it and maybe be a little bit more in the mood for it at some other point.
Well, when I saw you bought it, that's what made me buy it. I saw it popped up and said, "Hey, Nathaniel bought this game," and I was like, "Well, that looks kind of cool." 9 out of 10 on Steam, and 80% on.
I think it's just more that it's one like a style of game that I might not enjoy as much as other people do, and then also it just wasn't maybe in the mood for it.
Yeah, $20. It's normally $25. $20. Yeah, that's cool. But yeah, I like the art style and stuff. I really want to get more into that. I played TMNT Shredder's Revenge. Played a little bit on Xbox, and then they sent us a review code, and I took it. Eric wasn't going to review it, so I went ahead and took it, which I need to write a review up for it. I thought, well, I'd really like to see how this runs on Steam or on the Steam Deck. It runs really well on the Steam Deck. My only complaint is like the highest resolution at the last time I booted it up was like 950 by 500 or something like that. There was no 1200 by 80, or there wasn't even a 720p option on the Steam Deck for some strange reason.
The pixel art size they went with, they're like, we're not going to bother. Is it more of a Steam Deck thing?
I don't know. That's what I can't figure out. I can't figure out if it's a Steam Deck thing or what. I can't remember the resolution, the highest resolution goes. It was really weird. I mean, it was really strange. And I mean, it looked fine, but man, it was like playing in Letterbox. It had black bars on the top and the bottom. And that's fine for cutscenes and stuff like that. But if I'm going to play a whole game, I really want it to fill the whole screen. It doesn't have to be, on the Steam Deck, it doesn't have to be, 1200 by 800, but at least give me 720p, something a little close that's just a small block.
Yeah, that sounds like probably the port just doesn't have the correct recognition of resolutions or whatever. So
and they may have updated
one where the aspect ratio does not match the screen, and therefore you get the bars.
Yeah, and they may have updated it, and I just haven't booted it up since they updated it. But the game is fun as crap. I really want to try it with 6 players because it looks flipping insane.
That sounds like mayhem.
I know it really does, doesn't it? And but I want to be in that mayhem just for I just want to try it with that mayhem. But I mean, it's a really cool game. I mean, it reminds me a lot of the old game. You could tell that the Streets of Rage, the guys that did Streets of Rage 4 did this one, and you could tell they really have that formula down pat to say, hey, look, this is a modern version of a classic game. It looks classic, but it also looks modern at the same time, and it's just flipping fun. I mean, it's just stupid.
And you don't even have to put quarters in to play it.
Yeah, I know. I mean, what's funny is you can play 6 players on Steam, 6 players on Switch, 6 players on Xbox, and you can do that all couch co-op. On PlayStation 4, you can only play 4-player because they only allow you to connect 4 controllers at a time, not 6 like everybody else does, which is weird. It's like,
really
I mean, how often are you going to have a 6-player game, let alone anything? So that's probably just a weird tech issue.
Yeah.
Like, how many games are we going to ever need 6 controllers for? I don't know. Whatever, it's fine.
Yeah, it's fine. It's just hilarious. It's like, that's so weird. But I've got 2, 4. I actually have 6 Xbox controllers, which is very unusual and weird. Usually I only have at max 2, but I bought the 20th anniversary, I bought the Forza, and then I got 2 Elite controllers, and then I've got the controller that came with the systems, both systems, so I ended up having 6. When the great niece and nephew were over last weekend, I came this close to getting everybody together and say, come on down the basement, let's fire this up 6 players, and they are, both of them are, one of them's 5 and the other one of them's 7 and the other one's 5, so it just would have been chaos with those 2 because they've never played a video game before. And that's why I put Lego Star Wars Skywalker Saga in here. My great nephew had never played a video game before, not with a controller. They played some of them in school on the iPad or the tablet thing, and they were little school video games. He never played a real video game, so me and him sat down and played the first level of the New Hope in the new Lego Star Wars game, and it was hilarious because in that game you have to you swing your camera around with the left stick and you move with the left stick, the camera with the right stick, and you aim with the trigger. So he was trying to get it all down, but what was hilarious is when I would say you need to walk over here, he would actually physically get up and move his character and walk at the same time in the same direction that his character was walking in. He wasn't like one of the, I got to do it. No, he was physically getting up and walking in that direction. And he's like 6.5, 7 years old. It was just the most hilarious thing. And we came around the corner, and the one cut scene where Darth Vader comes out, he cuts through the thing and starts coming on. He goes, uh-oh. And my niece goes, oh, you're going to have to fight Darth Vader. And he goes, you don't fight Darth Vader. Darth Vader just wins.
He's not wrong.
No, he's not wrong. He is not wrong. It was like, yep, that's about the truth. I said, you don't fight Darth Vader. He just
most
wins.
For percentage wise, yeah, most of the time. There's a couple times where that didn't happen, but most of the time, Darth Vader wins.
It's like, out of the mouth of babes.
If it was a fighting game, it would count down 3, 2, 1. Darth Vader wins.
Yeah, but that Lego Star Wars game is really, really cool. It is fun. I would say right now it's in my top 5 games of the year. Just
nice.
Yeah, just the new stuff that they've done with it. I mean, it's the same formula, but with nice paint on it and little, new, puzzles and different things like that.
So is it the same as the old, way old Lego Star Wars thing, or is this more just we're taking Star Wars license again and doing a new thing more like the modern Lego ones?
It's pretty much new like the modern Lego thing. I mean, they've added
They've had so many Lego games, little and like just Lego Star Wars games. Even at this point, that I wasn't sure. I hadn't looked into it to see what they actually.
Yeah, I mean, you literally play the movie from from start to finish. And what's cool is not only do you can you just stand out in the open and shoot, but you can actually pull like your left trigger and you can actually lock on to behind cover and play it Gears of War style, where you can get up and shoot, or you can run up and do hand-to-hand combat with them, and it's, you've never been able to do, it's usually one or the other, but you've never been able to hide behind cover and, actually shoot things and have a life bar, it's always been however many bits you have, but this you actually have a light bar, and of course you die and come right back where you're at, but it's.
We give them a license so they can do a Lego Gears of War game, just so we can have Legos being torn apart by chainsaw guns.
Yeah, that would be great.
Pieces flying everywhere.
I would buy that in a heartbeat. I mean, that would if I guess if Microsoft ever buys Take-Two, that's how we would get that. If Microsoft would ever buy
no, they'd have to buy Lego because it's a Lego license thing.
Well,
it wouldn't
that's
be
true.
A video game, developer. It would be the license they would need.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean it was fun to sit down. He really wanted to play longer, but we only got to play like the whole thing. But he really liked it where you're walking down trying to find the escape pod, and he thought it was hilarious because he was R2D2 and I was C3PO, and I could jump on C3PO or R2D2's back and he could carry me around to different places, and he just thought that was the most hilarious thing in the world. And
yeah, that's one thing that the Lego games have done pretty well from the start, is the co-op is always fun.
Yeah. And I thought that was perfect for him for his first video game. He never even touched a controller before in his life. I'm like, okay, well, this is the game you got to try. It's because you like Legos, you know what Star Wars is, you knows what Legos is, and if you die, you just go, and you come right back. Nobody's upset.
Those games have always been super accessible anyways, and even at the time when I worked at GameStop, and you might have done the same thing when you worked at GameStop, where every time a family would come in and try to get a child either into video games or something that they wanted to play together that wasn't too much trouble, that wasn't too complicated, my initial reaction always was get a Lego game.
Yeah,
always.
Yeah, so too. Yeah, because I mean it was the best. So so hopefully he's not at home going, hey, can we buy an Xbox so I can play the Lego game? Hey, can we?
Oh, that's more than likely happening.
And I told them, I said, you let me know when that time comes, because I will be more than happy to buy that young man an Xbox and and a copy of the game, and we'll even get him an online account so me and him can play whenever he wants. It's like, I don't think any of that will ever happen anytime soon, but it's you never know. But yeah, so that's all I played. I haven't played a ton, just because I haven't had tons of time. We had family over last weekend and stuff like that, and I've been on the road. But Nathaniel, I see you played Lego A Builder's Journey. I bought that too, but I haven't fired it up yet. I bought it while it was on sale because it was only like $10 on the Steam sale. So, did you like that one?
Yeah, I did like that one. So I bought a few things on Steam sale, and like half of them were kind of puzzle games.
Yeah.
So that was kind of one of them. And it's I got it that one because it's like, hey, it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's been on my wish list for a while. Like I was like, oh yeah, hey, I'll get that. That'll be fun. And finished it in a few hours. It doesn't take that long to finish. It's a pretty short game.
Yeah, it's been on my Xbox wish list forever, but it hadn't went on sale on Xbox. So when it went on sale on Steam, I went, well, I'll just buy it and play it on the Steam Deck. And I do want to fire it up on the computer though to see the ray tracing and the real nice, super pretty graphics of it. But anyway, go ahead.
So yeah, I mean, it's pretty much, if you've seen anything about it, that's pretty much what that is. You're just bunch of little square kind of levels of get your character from here to there using different mechanics where you're placing down pieces to kind of like build a path, and then it kind of switches things up a little bit here and there, but that's pretty much the gist of the puzzles. It's like, hey, you have to get from this side to that side, or wherever you're going, so you have to kind of like figure out how you can create a pathway for your little character to get there. And I don't know. I was unspoiled on the game because I guess whatever they'd shown off was pretty much just like the first maybe 3 or 4 levels at most.
Hmm.
Because then at some point, a little bit in, the environment changes a lot in a kind of fun way. And I don't know, for a game that has no dialogue or anything, it tells a neat little story amidst all the little puzzles. So yeah, it's just a fun little game.
Yeah, I was trying to remember what the name of the new one coming out is. It's Lego Brick Tales is what it's called, I think. No, not Brick Tales.
Oh yeah, I played the demo for that during the there was the Summer Games Fest when they had all the demos up.
Yeah,
Steam.
I have the
awesome.
demo downloaded too, but I haven't played it yet. So
yeah, that was awesome. I'm really looking forward to that one. I really enjoyed that demo a lot.
Yeah, it looks really cool. So
is it another game by the same studio that did Builder's Journey or something, or is it just another Lego game?
Yeah, I think
I
it's
haven't heard of it, so I don't know what it is.
Let's see. The
but
developer is Clockstone. They do all the bridge construction games. The bridge constructor Portal and bridge constructor Medieval. All those.
Oh, well, that makes sense then. I can see the similarities actually. Yeah, no, but I enjoyed that demo like a lot though. I think well again it's just a demo, but judging from what I played, I still like Builder's Journey more. But that Brick Tales though, I mean that has big potential when that comes out. I can tell I'm already gonna like be in love with it because when you start to actually build the pieces together, like it teaches you how to go about building the pieces, and it feels more than any other Lego game, even more so than Builder's Journey. It feels like you are completely in control with how to build a Lego set. So, for example, one of the parts in the demo was you get into this little jungle area, and you have to build this bridge to get into the other side to move on to the level after that. And it gives you a bunch of pieces to play with, and you don't have to use all the pieces. But you go into this sort of almost like Sims creative mode type thing where you just have a bunch of pieces there, and you just on a grid system, and you can just place them at will, right, wherever you want. And yeah, it was just really cool just being able to take those pieces, and so long as you were able to make that bridge, but of course it has to be supported too, right? Like you can't just put like 4 planks and then call it a day. Like you need to have those beams to keep it up. Otherwise, because there's a little test button, then it has like a little robot that kind of goes from one side to another, and then and the physics are like really accurate. So that the robot goes across and there are no beams, anything to support it, that bridge is going to collapse. So you need to have the proper beams there, and then even then that's not enough, right? You need them not only going vertical, but horizontal as well. And yeah, no, it was really really cool, and you can even like have like fun like in getting making designs too, because they give you things that are more decorative. But that's the more advanced stuff that they teach you later on in the demo. But yeah, it was really really neat. Versus Builder's Journey, where that one's more based off of a puzzle. Of like how do I get from point A to point B and connect the dots here. There's sort of freedom to build to a degree, but you're still in that sort of confined space versus this Brick Tales where it was like, you go, like I said, into like a little sort of grid creative mode, and they give you pieces to play with, and yeah, there's no right or wrong. Well, there's a wrong way, but there's no, set way to, design what it is you're designing. So long as you can get, as long as you can build what you need to build and support it, so it can stay stable, then yeah, you're good to go. So and it's not like you use all the pieces. It's just like so long as you can make it work, you're good. So yeah, it was awesome.
And I've got the demo downloaded. You can still download the demo because I was on the Steam page right now. So yeah, you can still. Yeah. It's supposed to come out this year, hopefully.
Oh, hopefully. I mean, everything's fine.
Yeah, everything's just up in the air. It's like,
yeah.
Sure. Yeah. It'll come out sometime. But,
yeah. Sometime. It's like whatever, everything's like, oh, October 12th, November 1st. It's like, okay, if you say so.
Which reminds me, has anybody said when Advance Wars 1 and 2 is coming out? Because I've still got that thing fully paid off and pre-ordered at GameStop. It's like, when is that game coming out? I forgot about it because it was supposed to be like 3 months ago.
I don't know. But everything started happening with Nintendo. Pulled away from that because of everything happening with the war in Ukraine. So because of the word war in it, they had to delay it. I mean, I get wanting to be thoughtful and mindful of current events and stuff like that. But at the same time, it's like, I mean,
yeah, I mean,
this is the least of anyone's problems. I promise you. But advanced war, but whatever.
yeah, and it still says to be announced. Right.
Yeah.
So that's That's $60 has been floating at GameStop since like.
And maybe all they'll do is just in some future Nintendo Direct, it'll be like out today.
Yeah, probably.
Hopefully. Well, I mean, it would make sense. I mean, it was ready to come out months ago. I mean, I don't know if you guys saw the articles of like people were playing it. Some that got lucky and preloaded it early and just somehow had access to it. Now, eventually, a week later, I think Nintendo ended up,
yeah, they took it away somehow.
Yeah, revoking the license. Yeah, but yeah, so people were playing it. It was playable, but
yeah.
I don't know, man. If they got it and they're playing it, they pay for it. Whatever, let them play it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let them play it. Who cares? But yeah. Anyway, so go on that, Nathaniel. What else you been playing?
Oh, also along kind of the puzzle game route is a game called, I think, Dorfromantik or Dorfromantique.
I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I think Dorfromantik is what I've heard.
Yeah, I've never heard it said, so I'm just going based off of what it looks like, because all I know is I saw it.
This is what I think it is.
Browsing through on Steam sale, and like, oh, that looks cool. So it's a kind of a puzzle game where you have tiles that are hex shapes, and they all have different terrain or things on them, and it's all very much in a kind of storybook illustrated art style, kind of. So each tile you can have kind of like grass or forest or houses or water or railroad tracks, and there's different configurations of them. And you have basically a big stack that you start out with, like 50 pieces or whatever it is, and you can kind of see the top 2 or 3 in a preview, and then you just have a big empty board that you have to start placing them down, and wherever you share edges, if you match them, you get points. And then there's other things for unlocking different pieces and things that are outside of that. So like if you can put things and arrange them to where, like, if a piece has all of its edges are matched properly, you get a perfect placement. It gives you bonus points, and it's all about putting a bunch of tiles in, and once you run out, then you're done and you have a high score. But you can also get more tiles as you go by completing kind of little quest things. So little bubbles will pop up that's like, hey, get 10 plus water connected to this tile to complete this quest. Or they have a different type that you have to kind of close off a terrain type. So if you have like a forest going, you have to close off all the edges so it's a finished forest, and then you'll get a few more tiles in your thing so that you can keep going. And it's just a real chill, kind of just fun. It's got nice, pleasant music while you're playing. So it's just like, hey, just want to place some tiles and make a cool, like, cartoony, illustrated landscape as I'm going.
Yeah, it looks cool. I've heard of this, but I never looked into it.
It would probably be really fun on the Steam Deck too, I think.
Yeah, it says it's playable. It says the only thing
I don't know how well it would work because I was playing with a mouse, so I don't know how well it would work.
Yeah.
With controller support specifically, I know how you could probably do it. I just don't know if the game itself has it.
Yeah, it doesn't say. It just says everything is functional, accessible, the interface, everything. It just says this game sometimes shows mouse, keyboard, or non-Steam Deck controller icons. That's the only thing that makes it playable, which is weird.
Yeah, because it's all about like placing them. So with the controller, you could have like a stick to drag the piece around,
right,
and then drop it down. You're not like, then you have like rotations because you can like rotate. And
a lot of times the way they alleviate that is you hold down the left trigger, and then you use the mouse pad with your thumb to actually spin things around. So it's.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be the same as if you're doing controllers. It'd just be shoulder button left and right or something to rotate. Because it's not like you're like spinning it to an exact rotation. It's just you're toggling the piece to be in a different orientation, so it's all really cool. Locked off rotation. It's not like you're free spinning it or anything like that.
I'm gonna have to buy
that. Yeah, if I remember, it was it's not too expensive. It's just fun, chill game if you just want to like spend an hour playing it or whatever.
$11.19. That's not bad. And
But yeah, the art style's really cool.
Yeah.
And it's just a nice little relaxing puzzle game to play.
And I apologize to anybody watching this on VOD that I did not have a chance to sit down and pull video for games to put up this time. So if anybody's watching it on video on demand, it's like, okay, that's why there's no video, because I hadn't had time, but no big deal.
That's why Google exists.
Yeah, it's fine.
Hopefully you can spell it. It does have a weird spelling, so
yeah, it's like super weird.
Yeah, it's like Roman.
I mean, it's not super weird, but it's like,
you spell it like you're pronouncing it. Dwarf Roman Tink. Romantic.
DORFROMANTIK.
Yep. All right. I need to add that to my list, and I'll buy it after the show.
Like, sure, why not?
Add it to the more games that I don't have time to play, but it does look really cool.
I mean, it's one you totally have time to play, because you just put in and like, okay, I'm going to spend like however many minutes with it, and then you can save and quit and then come back to it later. It's all about kind of building it out, so you don't have to do it all in one sitting.
Yeah, that one thankfully doesn't seem like too much of like a. I mean, it can be a time sink, I'm sure, but like it doesn't like. It's not requiring you to sit there for hours at a time to really get enjoyment out of it, you know?
No, it's more about like you can take more time if you're really getting to like, I want to do optimal placements to get more points for this. But if you're just kind of like chilling and putting tiles together, you don't have to think about it that much. You're just like, okay, cool, I got some points, fun, You're not trying to solve any puzzles. It's more like just about like, okay, placing tiles and building out a thing, and then eventually you're done doing that. But it's enjoyable while you're doing it, because you're like, okay, I'm trying to place, I want to build this forest out, so it's a really big forest. So whenever a forest piece comes up, I'm going to put it over here. But now I've got a railroad piece, so I have to put it over here on the railroad thing that I've started over here, because you can only connect it, in certain ways for those. It's got certain rules for how it connects. Or hey, I want to make a big lake, so when water comes up, I'll put them down here.
Man, Steam really needs to come up with something to use those points for, because I've got like 89,000 points. It is ridiculous. And I've used a few.
I have no idea how many I have.
It's dumb.
I don't care or buy stickers or whatever the crap they call in their point store. It's like, yeah, sure, whatever.
Yeah, I like designing the profile every once in a while, but I haven't done that in months. Like, I mean, the last time I did it, I think was when Resident Evil Village came out, so that's why my entire profile, I think, is like Resident Evil themed. But other than that, like, I'm sitting on like close to 30,000, I think, at the moment.
Yeah.
So
once I bought my Steam Deck, it was just like, here's 40,000 points. It's like, oh my gosh, what do I do with these? It's like,
oh, they just give you that when you get the Steam Deck?
Well, it's for every dollar you spend. Like right there, I spent $11 and some cents, so that was 1,800 points or 1,100 points right there. So when I bought my Steam Deck, that was 400 and whatever dollars. So it was like, here's 40,000 and whatever the tax was in Steam points. It's like, okay, now I've got 89,000 points. What do I do with them? I bought one little thing to go around my profile that's animated. It cost me 10,000 points. So it's like, okay, what am I going to buy? Like 8 of those, I guess? I don't know. All right, Nathaniel, what game am I going to buy next?
All right. Have you heard of this little game that's also puzzles called The Last Campfire?
No, I haven't.
It is a little game that came out from Hello Games, and I think it was on Epic at first, and then it's on Steam and other places now too. I'm not sure where it is console-wise. I'm sure it's somewhere. But you're like a little, kind of looks like almost a little blue Jawa character. Because you've got kind of like a big empty like space in the front where you can see 2 like dots for eyes, and it looks almost kind of like how a Jawa looks.
Oh yeah, okay, I've seen this one. Yeah.
It's been a while since they announced it. It's like a little thing they announced a while ago, and then it came out kind of quietly, and it's gotten, pretty good reception, but it's not like it blew up the world with, oh man, you gotta play this game. But let's see, it took me about 5 hours to beat it.
Okay.
It's not a very long game. But it's a little more story-based than the other two, which are more kind of like a puzzle, game first. This one has a bit of a story on it, and then you're going through like the levels, and then you run into doing certain puzzles within the game versus just it is a puzzle game. So you're a little character or creature called an ember, as in like an ember of fires, and you're going around lighting you're lighting campfires, rescuing other like I forget what they call it. Forlorn. There we go. Forlorn characters in the game, where they've lost all hope. So it's basically a game about kindling hope, in a cartoony kind of literal way. We're like, oh hey, you brought hope back to this person because you solved their puzzle.
Yeah.
And then you're all trying to get to the end of the game, or where the last campfire is. You get to it at the end. But you also kind of see it in the opening cutscene. It's almost like a bookend thing. But anyway, it's a lot about like this little character going on a bit of a journey. If you want to do all of the extra puzzles, you can. Like each area, you have to do a certain number before you can kind of unlock the door to move on to the kind of like the next area. And then it's like if there's 8 of these puzzles in this area, you have to do 4 to move on. So if you don't want to do all of them, you don't have to, but you can. I ended up doing all of them and 100%ed that game, got all the achievements and stuff in 5 hours without even really trying necessarily, other than like, hey, I want to do all the puzzles. And by the time I got to the end, it was like, oh yeah, okay. None of these achievements are hard. I just ended up just getting them by playing the game and doing all the puzzles. Yeah, but it's got a really, really fun, just kind of cartoon art style to it, and just a nice, polished little 5-hour game that's really, really cool.
Yeah, this looks really cool. It's actually I had it on my wish list and forgot. $6. It's $6 right now on Steam. That's cheap. Daggone it.
There's another one.
I'm telling you, I am telling you, that Steam Deck thing I absolutely and was it you, Dennis, that put something on Twitter the other day about games on the Switch or something like that, and I replied to it. I have literally not turned my Switch on.
Oh yeah, I remember getting that from you. Yeah,
like 3 or 4 months. I've had my Steam Deck since April, and I literally have not turned my Switch on since then.
And if you have a Steam Deck, why would you turn on your Switch unless it's a specific Nintendo game?
I mean, and there's games that I would normally buy on Switch, like this last Campfire or the one before that. I went, well, I'll just buy it on the Steam Deck, and it's like, the Steam Deck has been the most surprising thing. I knew I would like it, but I'm very surprised by how much I liked it and how much I'd play it.
Yeah.
I mean, they're very successful with it to the point that they're expanding their production, apparently. So.
Yeah, I mean, they're on Q3, and I guess they're sending out more than they have the whole time. So, it's fantastic. I still can't believe
they still won't keep up, but no.
I'm still surprised I got mine as early as I did, because I mean, there's some people like Game Over Gregory and stuff that just got his the other day, and I'm like, I'm nobody, and I got mine the second, wave, first part of the second wave. But
yeah, you'd think like big, like journalists and personalities like him especially would get theirs early, if not, and before they officially launched, early just hardware like review units.
Yeah, and they didn't, and it was. But I think
he's not a PC person though, and also I think someone else on his company had it. But
Paris had it. Paris got it way early too.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, I think the reason I got mine a little early too is I got the 64 gig version, where a lot of people were holding out for the 512, but you just don't need it.
Yeah, that's
with a memory
unnecessary.
Card. You just don't need it. You just don't need it. I never use the onboard memory other than to install the system stuff. That's it. So
yeah, I would have been happy with the base 64, which is the one that I had pre-ordered. So I mean, again, the moment I heard expansion, I was like, okay, the rest, that's irrelevant then.
Yeah.
The other ones, I mean, I'm sure it's nice to have onboard storage that big, but again, it's not necessary, because you can get just as much, if not more, with a basic SD card. So
yeah, that stupid thing. Oh my gosh. But anyway, so
it started. I don't know if it's going through my microphone, but I hear fireworks now.
Yeah, it's they've been going off here too, so I've been hearing them here too. So, but anyways, so continue. Sorry.
We already kind of talked about it earlier, but Eastward I also got from the Steam sale, and so we don't really need to bring that one up again. Unless we really want to. Man, that Eastward game sucks. No, it doesn't. It's not that it's a bad game. It's just I didn't vibe with it. The one time I played it, but I'll probably at least try it one more time just to see if I'm more in the mood. But yeah, I don't know. When you got a lot to play, if you're not vibing with something, don't stick with it. We want
Oh
something.
yeah, absolutely.
I got a game called Ender Lilies from the Steam sale.
That's
because of what it looked like, and then also it has a bunch of badges of like, like winner of this award and that award and stuff, yada yada yada. It's basically an indie Metroidvania game that's also riffing on kind of like From Software vibe, so sort of like dark fantasy a little bit.
Okay.
And you get some lore through picking up and reading some items, not necessarily like in a FromSoft game where you'd have like weapons and things, but more like here's a book, you read the book, and then it goes into kind of like your notes section in your menu.
Yeah.
And the only thing that would that would make it better was if they'd had the budget to do kind of like voice acting or something with it, which they don't. It's all just like text popping up on screen for characters saying stuff. But it doesn't happen all super, super often. It's mostly you'll get a cutscene for some of the major bosses, or you'll get like a little bit of like dialogue pop up for some areas when you go into the game. But you play as like a little girl who's running around, and you have these spirits that are with you that are kind of like your weapons and abilities. And you get more by beating other bosses in the game, mini bosses or big bosses, whatever. So your sword is the first spirit guy with you, and it's got unlimited uses. But then you'll get other things that like you toss a thing that explodes, and that only has 15 uses until it refills at your bonfires, which they're not bonfires in this game, but for Souls game parlance, the bonfire.
Right.
They're benches in this game. So you sit at the bench and it recovers like health and recovers points for your abilities. There's also things like if you see a little white or red flower in the world and you hit it, it will give you some of that your magic points back or whatever for different things. You also it does have kind of like the Souls flask system where you have kind of like a magic thing where you heal yourself with it, but you only have so many uses of it before you have to recharge by sitting at a bench. But like a good Metroidvania, it has a very Metroidvania style map system in it where you just have kind of like rectangles, and then each rectangle is either blue or orange depending on whether you found all the things in it or not. And then it has little like connecting lines that show you the different pathways and stuff. And so it's like, oh, I know this one over here is, blue, which means I haven't finished it yet. So I'm going to backtrack with my new ability and see if there's something in there I can get.
Yeah.
Very much that kind of a game. But yeah, it's got a really, really pretty art style, and the animations are pretty smooth in it. Yeah. The only thing I don't like is the sound design. They could have had better sound design in the game to make it feel more weighty or just punchy or just other things, because it's very kind of light and chintzy sounding, for lack of a word. It's not that it sounds bad, it's just none of the things feel weighty. So like when you're hitting things and then like the final hit where they die, it's all just kind of like a liquidy splash. It's just, I think that if they'd had a different sound designer, it could have felt better. But it's an indie game, so you're only going to do so much. Right. If you're judging it on like indie game levels, it's great. It's really fun.
Yeah, it looks cool.
So yeah, like if you like Metroidvania kind of games, and look at it and kind of like the trailer and what it looks like and stuff, it's worth picking up, I'd say. Yeah, I haven't finished it yet. I think I've played about 5 or 6 hours or so, and I'm not sure how far into it. I don't think it's supposed to be a super, super long game, but I've beat at least 2 or 3 major bosses based on the cutscenes that have popped up in my what do they call it? Memories they call it. So you can look and you can replay them later if you want to like watch the cutscene again. Cool. So that's a whole bunch of the small games that I've been playing after finishing Horizon Forbidden West since the last time that we talked about games. So it's been a bit since I've actually finished it, but since I did since I went from kind of like Elden Ring and then a couple other things and then Horizon Forbidden West, like these big huge games, it's like I've been doing a lot more smaller games after that. Forbidden West is not as good as the first game. Overall. Like, they made a whole bunch of strides for how it looks and lots of kind of, things for how it plays that smooths it out and everything, but the writing is not as good, and it's an example of a game or a story or, a universe, whatever, having a really cool setup and then not taking advantage of that. So kind of like the enemies faction of this game and kind of like who you're going against and the overall like story of this game takes a back seat a lot of the time in favor of just all the open world stuff of like, hey, go here, find these here. You're in a village. Hey, can you go, rescue my friend who got lost out in the woods or whatever? Like all that kind of stuff is all done pretty well, but the overall kind of story of the game I don't think is as good as the first one because the enemies are super super cool and the idea behind like who you're fighting against and who you're going up against is so awesome that they don't use it and it really was annoying. By the time I got to the end I was like, that's it? Yeah, it definitely had that feeling of like, wait, that's it? And it's also doubly that's it because you've like defeated them. There's not really a way, and I'm sure you could find some weird, goofy way to bring them back for a third game, because there is kind of a setup for a third game for where they would go with it, but it's kind of like I don't. At the end, is like, but I don't care about that one as much because you didn't really do it well on this one. It feels like what they did is they took like, here's the big formula for a game, like our open world game, and we're gonna put some of the like smaller stories for all like the villages and the factions there into it, and they fleshed that way out, and then they kind of bolted on some of the overall story. At least that's how it felt like to me, and that was some of the like things where you look at it like, but it's so cool. It's really cool sci-fi-y stuff that was like different. The stuff that was different from the first game got kind of second fiddle and did not get fleshed out as much as you would want it to, or just didn't make up as much of a percentage of the game as you would want it to, as here's all the same stuff you did in the first game, just done slightly more polished way, like all the different, robot dinosaurs and stuff are out there. All that was more what they focused on than kind of this section of the story that I thought would be really cool, and it was a different part of the game. And like it was only like maybe 15% or something of the overall game. You're like, oh man, I wanted more of that, and you kind of short shifted it, and I was like, but that was cool, man. Why didn't we get more?
That's weird.
Or another part of it where they have like they set up like an antagonist that's then like by the time they show up again, you're like, wait, I forgot what was going on. Wait, you're still in this game? I totally forgot because I just spent 20 hours doing something else.
Oh jeez.
Like it's almost like you're playing a Star Wars game where they set up Darth Vader as your main enemy, but then Darth Vader just disappears and no one even talks about him at all for a lot, and then he shows back up later, like someone's like, hey, yeah, you remember Darth Vader? Oh yeah, crap, I forgot.
Oh yeah,
I hate when stories do that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of part of it is just the type of game it is, right? It's a big open world game and you can get distracted doing a bunch of different things. But at certain points, I was just like, okay, I'm tired of doing that. I'm going to mainline some of the story for a bit and do a lot of it in a row. And even doing that, especially at the end, I played like a big chunk of the end of that game, just kind of straight in the row, story mission to story mission to story mission. And I was like, okay, it's cool, but I felt like it didn't quite get as far as I would have wanted them to based on how the first game was. Because the first game has so many cool moments in its story where you're like, oh, wow. And, they had the potential to do that again in this game, just in a different way, and they didn't do that fully. There's a few moments that are cool like that, but I don't think it was as successful in its story as the first game was, at least for me. It's not like it's a bad game. It's just like, I wish it was a little bit better.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah. And then also, I finished Tunic since the last time we kind of talked about what we've played.
Oh, cool.
I mean, I didn't get every absolute secret thing and play it 15 times like you can do to get every little hidden item or anything, but I did beat the game and like the last. I ended up doing the thing where you don't fight the last boss, almost by accident. And it's like, oh well, I'm almost there. I'll just do the last thing and then I'll be good.
Yeah.
Which after the one boss that's fairly late in the game, that's kind of like you're on a tiny little platform fighting them, and they have a bunch of moves that are just like, hey, I'm gonna shoot you with a shotgun, and then I'm gonna like zip over here and then like smash you and do all this thing where it's just like, took me so many attempts to beat that one, whereas most other bosses did not take that many times. I was just like, oh, I don't like this boss. So I was like, not looking forward to fighting any other ones past that would be even harder.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, I don't have
Those
to.
bosses get like so absurd. But there were times where I did have to use that what was it in the options menu? Basically, the God mode thing. Basically, I had to use that a couple times.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know. I did whatever is in there that makes it not do the stamina system like early on in that game because I hated how the stamina system worked. So it was just like, no, I can infinitely roll around and do whatever I want, and it's not going to matter. It's not going to penalize me for, oh no, you rolled a bunch. Now you're going to get a whole bunch more damage because you were rolling. It's like, that's not the kind of game I want to play.
Yeah. Yeah, I get that.
But yeah, that was a neat little game. I liked it. It was good.
Yeah.
That is all.
I like Tunic a lot. All right, Dennis, what have you been playing? You got quite the list. Good thing Eric's not here. You got quite the list.
Yeah, I know. It's always competition between him.
Let's just delete a few of these. Oh, Dennis, you didn't play anything. That's weird.
Wow, that is weird. Wow.
Yeah, I'll try to sort of I'll treat this like a game and try to speed run through it. There's quite a bit here.
There you go.
But one of the big ones though that come out within the last couple of weeks, because it's been about 3 weeks maybe since we had the last podcast. So there've been since we're in that summer season.
I mean, it's been longer than that because the last podcast we did was all kind of about like game conferences and stuff. So we didn't really talk about what we were playing.
Yeah. Technically, it was 4 weeks ago. So yeah,
it's been a hot minute.
Yeah, it's been very much so. And with the summer season being here, that's when all the heavy hitters are coming out, right? So, but one of the many to come out that I played within the last couple of weeks is the Quarry. Now, the Quarry also made by the good folks over at Supermassive Games. Everyone's familiar with them at this point. They're responsible for Until Dawn and all the Dark Pictures games like Man of Medan and House of Ashes and Little Hope, and many more to come. I don't know if you've seen their roadmap for what they have planned for Dark Pictures, but it is a lot. It's a lot. So, so there's like 6 more already, like ready to be developed. Which one's the next one though? I don't know, but there's a lot. There's a lot on the way, and but yeah, no, the Quarry was so fresh. I loved it, man. The Quarry is definitely the best thing they've done since Until Dawn. Now, which one to say I like better? It's hard to say, only because they're both horror and they both have their the typical here are multiple characters that can live or die depending on how you play the game. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say because I loved Until Dawn and I loved the Quarry, but they're 2 very different types of horror. I'm trying how to say this without spoiling it. But the Quarry's sort of horror is more, no pun intended, but it's more campy.
Well, and that was what I was going to say. That's what I got from the commercial. We watch Hulu and stuff like that, and they literally showed a commercial for that at the beginning of every show we've watched. We've been binging.
This is why streaming services should not have ads if you can't do more than one ad,
right,
guys?
Yeah, well, it's like we've been binging Bob's Burgers, so every 25 minutes, it's they do a commercial or 2 at the beginning, and it's been the Quarry, and I'm like, man, that game. I don't care for horror games that much, but that game looks like it is campy as crap. And I think I would play it and laugh more playing it than I would be, oh, this is so scary. It's like...
it's definitely, I think one of the things I appreciated about it is that it's self-aware in a lot of ways, but not in a corny way though. It does make references. Like you see people all the time that are just like, oh, so so this is like Friday the 13th then. Like they'll say stuff like that.
Yeah.
So they're very self-aware and they do make a lot of movie references and stuff like that. But the cast is great. And it's really well acted. Well, I'm not gonna say that either. I kind of. It's not necessarily a spoiler. It's more of a observation. Well, I'll just go ahead and say, where David Arquette, who they promoted a lot with this game, right? He's not in there that much, and not because he dies or anything. Like it's just story-wise, he kind of just goes away. I don't know if it's because they were just like, okay, well, we can't use them too much. That's most of our budget. But like,
It might
but
play into it a little bit.
Yeah, it could.
possibly,
You
and
never know
it's
with
not.
things like that, but that's always the
That's
first
true.
guess of like, hey, we've got this name, we'll use it to promote it, but we can only put it in so much, otherwise, we have no
Right.
money to make the thing.
Right.
Right. Which is weird because they have such a great cast. Because Justice Smith is also in there, and I always forget her name, even though she's a great actress. But there's the old lady that's from Insidious and so many other horror films. I think she's maybe even been in like Conjuring. She's in a lot of James Wan like movies, honestly. And but she's in there. She's great. The old dude from Detroit Become Human, he's in there. From the one that was in the wheelchair, and one of the I'm just if I saw their names, I would know who's who. Just it just all kind of eludes me at the moment. Um, but one of the daughters from Modern Family's in there, and it's a pretty big cast, and it's I mean I loved it. At the end of the day, I loved it. But I think compared to Until Dawn, again, they're two very different types of horror. Because
Right.
Until Dawn is more a mix of like paranormal with sort of ritualistic stuff. Um, and the Quarry,
And a bit
I
of
mean, I'm
like
not going to spoil it,
slasher sewn in there
but
too, I'd say, for Until
yeah,
Dawn. Yeah.
definitely. I think yeah, definitely. And honestly, the Quarry takes a lot of inspiration from slashers as well. Again, they do a lot of references to it, and
I mean, it's because slasher, like that formula fits well for video games, I think, or at
it
least the
does. Yeah.
style that they're doing. It makes it,
Well, definitely, especially
easily
when you're
adaptable, I guess.
yeah, for sure. Especially when you have, because slashers always are notorious for having like, here's a group of people. A lot of them are probably going to die,
All
So
right.
you want to have that cast of characters also that may or may not be disposable, depending on how you play, but at the end of it all, though, I loved it. My girlfriend and I, we couldn't put it down. It was an amazing game. It was really fantastic, and honestly, the best thing they've done since Until Dawn. I think some people will prefer this, some people will prefer Until Dawn. It just kind of depends on how your perception of horror is and how you prefer your horror. But yeah, it's at the end of the day, though, it's another great game from Supermassive Games, and the best thing they've done, I think, since Until Dawn, for sure. For sure, and definitely better than all the Dark Pictures games, even though I like those too, but definitely better than those two.
Well, for somebody that doesn't play horror games, I've been real interested in it just by seeing the
Yeah,
advertisements for
yeah. I honestly, I think you'll have a good time with it because all the scares also they don't feel cheap, and everything feels very tailored to you, which I
it. Yeah.
appreciate because there's a lot of games that are choose your own adventure games that are like this, but they don't have that flexibility that Supermassive Games does because they're very good. I mean, this is all they do, really, right? So they're very good at this. They specialize in this.
Right.
So, but when you see other studios try to do their take on it, whether regardless of the size of it, um, a lot of the times, despite dialogue options and despite different paths, they can still feel very scripted, But everything about the Quarry, for the most part, maybe not everything, but for the most part, you never knew where it was going to go, right? And you never knew how people were going to die or how they were going to live, depending on those circumstances you found yourself in. So, um, it it was just really well done. Everything felt very organic, and yeah, it was awesome. I had a great time with it. Um, got now I will say because this is a 2K release and not published by Bandai Namco, unfortunately, since 2K is one of the bigger companies that also, everyone knows them from, if
Right.
not, Rockstar and all stuff like that, the bigger stuff. You know them because of all the sports games that they put out, right?
Yeah.
All the NBAs and WBs and whatnot. Um, so of course, they went the Sony method, and they were like, "Look, if you want to upgrade to the Series X/S version of the game, you need to pay an additional $10." Now, here's the thing: They don't tell you that right away. So I almost paid $80 for this game, even though I refuse to pay that much for these sorts of games. Because I $70 games are just crazy to me. Like 60 is the cap, unless we're talking collector's editions, then we can negotiate. But outside of that, I'm
Good
not
thing
paying that
you
much.
didn't grow up playing video games in the '90s and loving role playing games.
Oh, well,
Because
I
let
know.
me tell you
Yeah,
something: $70 is a drop in a bucket when you have to pay
yeah, I know.
$100 for Fantasy Star 4 in 1988. I mean, it was or
Yeah,
whatever year it was, '92, whatever.
yeah.
It was, yeah, it was, and
Those
and
cartridges, man.
yeah, those cartridges, they were expensive. It just
Yeah,
cracks me up because everybody's like $70. I'm like, dudes, I remember having to, begging my mom, I want Fantasy Star 4. Well, if you buy that, that's the only game I'm buying you for the next year because it's $100. It's like,
Yeah, but that's a completely different time where it wasn't as standardized for what your game was going to be because the cartridges and stuff like that, or just the scope of it even.
yeah. But yeah, no, I totally
yeah,
get, and I hate it when companies do that. It's like you buy the Xbox One version and then realize that it's not the X and S version as well. You have
right,
to pay the extra $10. It's like
right.
just make it
And they
all one. They're
almost
backwards compatible. What difference does it make? Just charge me
right,
$70. Don't charge
right.
do that if you want to do
And
it.
and that's and that's the part that kills me, right? Is like you can upgrade, but you can't downgrade. And I know that sounds weird, but as someone who owns a 1X, and still sees value in it, even if it's just for being a Blu-ray
Right.
player, at this point, I want I want that smart delivery,
Right.
and so you can upgrade, but you can't downgrade. So I almost went with the deluxe edition, with which is $80, right? And that comes with everything, the Series XS and the One version, as well as a bunch of bonuses as well. But thankfully, what I found is, and it's down in the bundle because you don't see it separately. And that's how they try to get you. It's down in the bundle, but in the bundle, you actually can buy the upgrades separately for only $10. And I was like, okay. Um, so that's what I ended up doing. So that way, I saved myself $10 that way, and you still got bonus content because because I pre-ordered it
Right.
technically, even though it was like an hour before, but I had pre-ordered it and got it that way. So it still came with all the deluxe edition content that were just pre-order bonuses, and I saved
Right.
myself $10 out of it because I got the Xbox One version first, then paid the $10 upgrade, and then but still got all the bonuses that came in the deluxe edition and saved myself $10 by doing so. It's such an obnoxious, way to
Now,
do this.
what if you bought it physically?
Oh, then it's tough. You know, that's too bad.
Well, I
then
mean, but
because
if I bought it physically, do I have to buy the Xbox One version to play it on my Xbox One, or will it go back and forth
correct.
between?
No, no, yeah, they're. It's kind of like what Gearbox did with well, Gearbox is 2K. So yeah, it's kind of like what they did with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, because they almost got me with that too. Where there's two different versions. Digitally, you can do that, right? What I just said with the Quarry, but physically, you're either stuck with the Xbox One version or the Series X/S
Oh,
version.
see, I
That's it.
didn't realize
Yeah.
that. So,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. So now, unless again, now there is a physical version, the chaotic great edition, with Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. That is same deal, $80, maybe 70, but $80 I think. And that one, it does say on the box Xbox One and Xbox Series S and
Right.
X. And I'm just like, why? Come on, why? So that means you have 3 physical copies in stores taking up shelf space.
Yeah,
You
that
know what I mean?
doesn't make
You
sense.
It doesn't make sense, not even from a manufacturing level, because the amount of money that goes into printing all those separate discs,
Yeah.
and then you got to pay stores for that space.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? In order to sell that. So again, it's baffling to me. Just have one disc, one SKU, smart delivery, call it a day. If you want to have that upgrade function, fine, but make that an optional thing that you do digitally, because the moment you start putting 2, 3, 4, 5 separate SKUs in the store of this same game physically, mind you,
Right.
things get out of hand. That's just ridiculous to me. And the same thing kind of happened with the Quarry, where again you had your Xbox One version, and and this also applies to PS4 and PS5, but I'm just using Xbox as an example because that's what I played it on. But you have your you know your previous gen version and your current gen version, and then you have the deluxe, slash gold slash whatever you want to call it at this point. that kind of encompasses all of it. So again, minimum 3 different SKUs for the same game.
4.
You know?
I'm just looking on GameStop's website right now. They have the PS4 version for $59,
Okay.
the PS5 version for some reason $67.62. I don't know why.
Yeah,
and then they have the Xbox One version for $59, and then they have the Series X version for $69. And then right below the Xbox One version, it says Xbox One Digital $79.99.
Yeah. Oh my God. See, and then that's the one that's going to come with everything. But it's like it's crazy to me. Just have the one physical copy. Keep it, previous gen just to make it easier. That way you already know it's working on your current platform. Since PS5 and Xbox Series X can, more often than not, well, Series X for sure, but PS5 more often than not can still play your PS4 games.
Right.
So that
You're
way,
just
if you
not
want
gonna
the
get those
upgrade,
next gen stuff.
right,
So.
right. But if you want that option, then you just go to the the PlayStation Store or the Microsoft Store, and then just pay $10 for that upgrade and call it a day. But it's going to confuse a lot of people, and thank God I don't work at GameStop anymore, because I can just imagine the amount of people coming back just being like,
Yeah.
oh, I thought this was the Series X or the PS5 version. It turns out I got the one for last gen instead. Can I swap it out? It's like, sorry,
that was like when I bought what was not the Call of Duty that just came out this year, but the Call of Duty that came out the first year when the Series X first came out. Was that Black Ops? Black Ops 2?
I do not know.
That was either. I think the most recent one is Vanguard, right? That's the most recent one, or
I don't know. I don't remember. Whatever was the Call of Duty that came out when the Xbox
Call of Duty chocolate sauce.
Yeah, I went to GameStop because they had it on sale, and I said, okay, I need the Series X version because they did the same thing. They had the Xbox One version, they had the Series X version, and the PS4 and the PS5 version. And I said, I need the Series X version. And the manager who was on duty said, this is the version you want. And I'm like, well, I need the one that works on Series X. And he literally sold it to me, and I came back and I said, nope, this is the Xbox One version. I need the Series X version. I said, it's got to be $10 more. Oh, yeah, it's just like, oh my gosh. It's not that hard, but at the same time, why?
I mean, it's not that hard, but it is that hard. Yeah. It's like you're introducing complexity that doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, it doesn't need to be there. And we've now, I don't know. It's so, and here we are almost, 3 years into it, and we're still doing it. It's like, good grief. But yeah.
Well, it's partly because of how extended it's been from not being able to, get them. It's almost like it's been 1 year for previous console generations, except, because we can't get them. It's, hey, we still know that this is fairly new for a lot of people, so whatever.
Yeah, which is why Sony's still going to support the PlayStation 4 for 3 more years.
It's crazy, but anyway, anyways, but after we through that whole headache, we did get the game, and it was a great game. So and I'm very happy with it, and we had a great time with it. And I do want to play it a minimum of 2 more times. I might play it 3 more times, but I do want to play it a minimum of 2 more times, because after you play the game and beat the game the first time around, that's when you unlock the movie mode, and you can choose whether everyone lives or everyone dies. But then the third option is called the director's cut, where you right away can choose how you want the story to go before you even start it. So you can choose right away who you want to live and who you want to kill right away. And then you just watch it play out that way. So that's really cool versus playing the game normally and then just kind of making your choices, and some might be good choices, some might be accidental bad choices. So and seeing how it plays out that way. But yeah, you can sort of predetermine with the director's cut, which is really, really cool. So but yeah, minimum I want to play 2 more times because I do want to see the outcome of when everybody lives and then when everybody dies. I think that'd be really, really cool because just with so many different routes and how these stories play out, it's just always interesting, because that's always going in the back of my head, right? When somebody dies, and especially later down the line, especially if it's an important character that sort of is like the glue for everyone, and then you lose them, and it's just like, ooh, I wonder if things would have been different if they were still around, So yeah.
What would happen if everybody dies in the first act, and then like the killer's just like, oh, well, what do we do now?
Yeah, well,
I'm bored.
just turn on the TV, put the legs up on the table, and that's it.
We got any snacks in here?
Oops.
Yeah. It's like, hey Jim, yeah, you too. Yeah, I accidentally killed them all. I just yeah, early work day. So
like I keep telling you, man, you need to savor it. Take your time.
I know, man. I just get so excited, man. I can't help it. But yeah, no, the Quarry is awesome. So if you like those types of games, highly, highly, highly recommended. I mean, even if you're not big into horror, like you are, John, it's I still think you would get some enjoyment out of it.
It
Again,
looks like
it's
a
a
fun
pretty
game.
good story.
Yeah, it just looks fun. So.
Yeah. But yeah. So in addition to that, I've been playing Mario Strikers Battle League. And on the flip side, this game is man. There's not much of one because there's just very, very little content there.
That's not what I was expecting you to say.
Yeah. It feels like I've played early access titles that were in alpha that have more content than this. It's you only have 10 characters to choose from, 8 of which at any point you'll see out on the field because it's a 4v4. However, that's in terms of team sort of placement, right? But when you're online or local, actually, no, local, I think you can still do 4, but when you're online, it's mandatory 2v2, right? So you can't go 1v1 unless, you're doing a sort of like singles cup, which is very hard to, for some reason, to enable. Otherwise, it's mandatory 2v2 always, and more often than not, people don't, and never mind that they don't know what they're doing, it's almost like they don't care. There's no participation. Right. And with how frenetic everything is, very little do you see yourself having the ball for more than 2 seconds at a time. And that's me being nice, 2 seconds. More often than not, it's only a second before you have to either pass it or you just get tackled. And the fields themselves aren't big enough to accommodate for all that craziness. Yes, it's only 8 people out on the field versus however much is typically out on a normal soccer field, but it, it's just not with all the variations in sizes. Because obviously someone like Bowser is going to be very bigger than someone like Toad, right? Like, but the fields themselves don't change. So it's this weird sort of mix up of sizes in this very cramped field that just feels it's I can't even say there's too much going on because even in terms of you do have items that sort of get thrown on the field on occasion. Sometimes people in the audience get excited. They'll throw little blocks on the field and you get an item. And then you can use those items as if things aren't crazy enough. You can use those items to, have an explosion, or just knock people down. And then you have your specials on top of that, the hyper strikes they call them, which those are probably the best part, honestly, because admittedly the animations in this game are fantastic. Like they're really, really great, the animations. So it's great to watch, it's great to look at, but when you're playing it, man, you're done after like 2-3 rounds at a time. After 2-3 rounds at a time. So it's you can see. Let me put it this way. I don't know if you guys tried out the beta at all, or not the beta, but the network test that happened like a week or two before the game came out. But what you see is what you get. I mean, basically, when you turn on the game, that main menu has 4 modes, one of which isn't even really a mode. 4 modes. You have a God, what do they call it? Just let me just put it this way. You have your regular singles cup, right, which is just your standard online battles. You have a tournament cup, which is predictably you go through a tournament, right? You go through a bracket. You start off with like 4 teams, then it becomes, 2 teams, then it becomes, the winner, so on and so forth. So, but and then the third option is the seasonal stuff, which it wasn't even available for the first week that game came out. So really, you were limited to those 2 options. And the fourth mode again, isn't even really a mode because that's just your gear setting. So that's where you go and you can equip different types of gear to different characters, and that'll change their stats. And every type of gear, there's only 6, maybe 8 different gear types. I think 8 different gear types, and they all sort of prioritize certain stats, right? So one will prioritize speed, one will prioritize defense, another one will prioritize technicality, and all of those will sort of they'll give you different attributes depending on what it is that you're increasing, right? So maybe you can tackle harder, maybe you can pass easier without it being intercepted, so on and so forth. So, but yeah, it's not much. You get maybe 4 or 5 different stadiums to play in, 10 characters, and 4 modes, only 3 of which are actually functional. And then that's it, man. I mean, that's, this is $60 for what?
Wow.
Like this is they
that
designed this one.
Nintendo license. That's about it.
I
It
guess
says Mario on it.
it does. It does. But like this could have very easily been and I think it would have been more successful and more palatable as a free-to-play title with microtransactions in there because just when you look at how this game is set up, it feels like a free-to-play. It feels like a mobile game. Just the way it's designed with its few characters and then the gear and the coins and the progression. There's very little motivation to progress because none of it means anything. You get these coins, but you can unlock all the gear in no time flat. So then you have all these leftover coins that do nothing. They do nothing. And you can customize, thankfully, which is probably one of my favorite parts of the game, you can actually customize a stadium. But those are separate tokens, so you need stadium tokens for that. Though you don't even use the regular coins for that. So then the coins are just sitting there and they're accumulating because every time you play a match, win or lose, you're going to get coins.
It sounds like something that if they had developed it more, it'd be a way to convert that. Like, hey, if you get 100 regular coins, you can get a stadium coin or something, right? But
yeah,
because
like
it's so bare bones, that's not there.
Yeah, and it's not. It's unfortunate, and I was really looking forward to this one because I remember as a kid, especially playing Super Mario Strike, regular Mario Strikers on GameCube, and for hours and hours and hours at a time with my brother and my friends that would come over, and that was the game we played for months at a time, if not years. And then we didn't get another Mario Strikers until the Wii came out, right? So you got Mario Strikers Charged, I believe, and then Wii U didn't have one. So it'd been a very long time, and now here we are with Battle League, and for what? I mean, this was one of the Mario spin-off sports titles that people were asking for a long time, outside of Mario Golf and Mario Tennis. Obviously, those are usually the most requested ones, but this one would come in third place, definitely more than Sluggers, the baseball one that they had, and then they had like a all-star one where they had just sort of a bunch of little various mini games of varying sports. I think that was on the 3DS. But like we haven't seen Strikers in forever, and then here we are, and this is what we get, and it's sad because I feel like this is just in line with. I don't even know why I'm surprised because at this point it just feels like this is just what they've been doing lately with a lot of these spin-offs games. Because tennis was like this too. Mario Tennis Aces was fine. It's definitely better than Strikers, but it was fine. But it definitely didn't have that oomph that the GameCube one did, and certainly not the N64 one before that. And this one, and then the one on the Wii U, Ultra Trash, we call that one. That one was a mess. Like what that game was on Wii U, Ultra Smash, Mario Tennis Ultra Smash is to the Wii U what Battle League is to Switch. And it's so unfortunate to say that, man, because this game is beautiful and the animations are fantastic. But I feel like that's where all the budget went, because when you see the animations and the introductions and the victory laps and then the what they look like when they lose and stuff like that, it's all so well done. There's so much personality there. It's a beautiful looking game. But gameplay wise, the core mechanics and the functionality of this game, it's not, it's just there's very little enjoyment. And it's, really sad saying that, especially as I was writing the review on this. And, at first when again, before the game came out, I was looking forward to it. But then as they showed more, I was just like, this is looking a little empty. Then I played the network test and I was like, I was still a little worried. And as I was writing the review, I gave it sort of a so-so. But then by the end of my review, I realized, especially after, going through the draft a couple times, I ended up just having to give it, just a negative review. And so I just, like, I'm sorry, I can't recommend that game. I'm sorry, I'd be very angry if I spent $60 on that game. Very angry.
That's too bad.
Yeah, because I think this game does have promise, but I think, and they do say they're planning updates, but again, I think it's too little too late. And, right out the gate, if this is what you're offering, I don't have any particular hope for the future, and you should have just kept it, under wraps for a bit until you were ready to release something that was worth the money, because this is just, I mean, really, it's upsetting. It's upsetting. That's the best way to explain it. Is it's just upsetting without spending too much more time on it. It's upsetting. So, um, but after that, a much better game that that has been very difficult for me to put down. Frenetic, but controlled chaos is a better way to put it. Is Neon White. Oh, Neon White. Oh my God. Neon White. I've been playing that on the Switch as well. And, for a game like that, you would think that that game would not work on consoles, period. Never mind the Switch. Because I was a little worried at first because I got invited to a preview event. Annapurna invited me to speak to Ben Esposito, the developer and the creator of the game, and also the mind behind Donut County and What Remains of Edith Finch. Probably back in March, actually. This was a while ago. And joined them, got to speak to him, and got to see the game a little bit. And it was all running on PC, and the game looked beautiful at the time, very stylistic, and definitely fast paced. But I was like, games like these, speedrunning games like this, Ghost Runner, Super Cloud Build, Severed Steel, stuff like that, you need keyboard mouse, man. There's no other way to play. I don't want to, the controller is not suitable. I don't care if you put the sensitivity on high. I can't sit there. I need pinpoint accuracy.
Right.
And like pinpoint precision, actually. Never mind accuracy, precision. With games like these, if you're going to be platforming, doing a bunch of parkour and speedrunning your way to the end of a goal, especially when it incentivizes that. You want to go faster. You want to go faster. And beat your own times. You want that replayability. You want those time trials, stuff like Mirror's Edge, but on crack, basically. But I was like, I don't know, how is this going to work? Surprisingly, and like it only took like maybe 2 levels, and these are short levels. We're talking like maybe like 30 seconds a piece. Like but the reason why they're so short is because they want you to replay them. They want you to go faster and faster and faster.
Right.
And I don't move on to the next level until I get a platinum rating into that. There's 3 different ratings. You get silver, gold, and platinum. And I don't move on until I get platinum. So let's just say, even though these levels are 30 seconds long, you could spend 5-10 minutes on one level just if you're still trying to beat, your time. So, let's just say, for a basic bronze, it's like, well, 30 seconds, and then if you want to get a silver, 25 seconds. You want to get gold, 20 seconds. If you want to get platinum, 18 seconds, let's just say. But it's so well designed that there's so many shortcuts also. Well, not so many, but if you can be clever enough and look around enough, you can easily get platinum ratings on just about everything. The controls feel super tight, and on the Switch, I was surprised. Whether you're using gyro controllers or not, man, it's slick. It feels great, and I was surprised because, and Ben Esposito, he did say this, where he's like, look, when we were making the Switch port, because we really wanted this to be on Switch, our initial thought was like, look, this has to feel just the same as PC. We don't want it to feel like the console version. Like, no, there's only one Neon White. That's it. No matter where you're playing it, we want to give you the Neon White experience. We're not going to give you the Neon White, the PC Neon White. That's not going to happen. And they made it work. I mean, the amount of fine tuning they must have gone through, it feels fantastic. I mean, really, for a game that's this fast, because I mean, I've played even stuff like Ghost Runner on Switch. Don't ever play Ghost Runner on Switch. And not because it doesn't even look like that game is surprisingly beautiful, because that game is beautiful if you've seen Ghost Runner. But on Switch, even though it still looks good, and it has nothing to do with even the lack of frames, because I think it's in 30 frames instead of 60 frames. Again, that's still fine for Ghost Runner, believe it or not. The problem comes down to the controls. You do not move quick enough. You don't have the way the buttons are spaced out. There's just not enough. It's not ergonomic enough to accommodate for the reactionary time and responses you need to have for a game like that versus a keyboard mouse. But Neon White, man, they nailed it. I mean, I can't recommend this game enough. It's fast paced. It's great. The story's fantastic. The art style is wow, that's a chef's kiss right there. You know, it's all just so good, and it's more than just those levels too, because even when you're not playing those levels, you're going through this awesome sort of visual novel type format game. But then when you're not doing that, you go into this hub world that's basically it's called Central Heaven because that's where you are. You're in heaven, and you can choose where you want to go. You can go to the cathedral. You can go to your room. You can go to, an office. You can go to the beach. Just a sort of lunch area. You can go to all these certain places. I mean, you won't walk in like a third person perspective or anything or first person perspective. You're just kind of clicking, where you want to go, almost like in a point and click way.
Right.
But it's awesome. Just the amount of content there, the story, the lore, and it's so well written. I mean, and this game is just fantastic. So whether you decide to get it on PC or Switch, you're getting the same experience on both. It's 60 frames no matter what, and it's native resolution no matter what. And yeah, the biggest difference is they changed the assets look a little different on Switch because I do remember Ben Esposito saying that the Switch version of the game they actually had to remake a lot of their assets in order for it to run well on the Switch, which is weird because when you look at the game, it doesn't look particularly demanding, because even the PC version, again, it's a pretty game, but stylistically speaking, I mean, we're not. This isn't photorealistic. This isn't Horizon,
Right,
Forbidden
yeah.
West. So, so it's weird they had to do that, but they really wanted to just nail it down and make sure everything ran as fluid as possible. They were not settling for anything less than 60 frames, and they got it. They got it, and it's comparable in every way, shape and form, and it's wow. I mean, I can't recommend Neon White enough. I mean, it is probably I would put it on my top 10 for this year, honestly. So when we do that top 10, at the end of the year, don't be surprised if you see it on there because right now I would say it's on my top 10 for this year for sure. Um, but yeah, continuing on, also on the Switch, new game that came out recently is Fire Emblem Warriors Three Hopes. Been playing a lot of that. I love the Warriors games. I don't care what word comes before it. If I see Warriors, I'm in. So I don't get Fire Emblem, One Piece, Dynasty, Samurai. That's irrelevant. That doesn't matter to me. If I see Warriors, I'm in. And as you would expect, it is a Warriors game. So no surprise there. So it plays identically, but man, this is arguably one of the best Warriors games, if not the best Warrior game they've ever done. And that's saying a lot because I loved Hyrule Warriors too. But the reason why I say that is because this feels like a genuine Fire Emblem game. The only difference is when you go into battle, instead of a strategy RPG, you're getting a hack and slash. That's the only real difference. Otherwise, it feels like a genuine Fire Emblem experience. I mean, you're walking around this camp, you were walking around the school for a little bit, and it's you still have those the three houses, except now they're three hopes. Is it a sequel? I think it's a sequel. I think it's kind of like a semi-sequel to Three Houses. I'm not sure. It feels that way, anyways.
Maybe.
It definitely feels that way. But just with how the story goes, because they do time skip a bit, but yeah, and you get to play as your own character again. You played Byleth in Fire Emblem Three Houses, but in this one, you get to play as a mercenary whose name you give, and you can choose once again between male or female avatars, and yeah, it's awesome, man. The animations and the cutscenes are great. Runs really good, which is saying something. 'Cause most Warrior games on the Switch, they tend to. I don't want to say they struggle, but they're very choppy.
Yeah.
They're not very stable. 1 second they'll be 40 frames, and they'll drop down to like 28, then they'll be up to like 36, and then 30 again. I mean, they're all over the place, those frames. But this one's surprisingly stable, and Yeah, it's great. I mean, if you love Fire Emblem, there's no reason not to get this. I mean, this game is fantastic. It is another Fire Emblem game. It feels like a sequel. To, again, the only difference, you're doing all the same things. You're doing the romantic stuff. You're doing the the upgrades. You're doing the teams. You're doing the honestly, even the strategy is still kind of there, because when you're out in the field, if you open up the map really quick, you can actually designate um, where you want your where you want the warriors to go. So, you can have them actually just go and take care of other camps for you while you focus on maybe a main quest or another side quest. You can have them defend you. Um, yeah, and just so many options that, it does kind of feel that way too, because the map is set up like a grid system too, almost like if it was a strategy RPG. And then you just choose where you want them to go, and they're very smart too. The AI is really good. And yeah, you can switch on the cool. So you don't always have to play as the mercenary. You can switch over, to Dorothea or yeah, just all of them. Lucas and whatnot. So, but yeah, it's it's awesome. I mean, I can't recommend it enough. I think it's the best Warriors game to come out in a very long time, if not the best Warriors game. Um, Top three easy. And especially in terms of licensed stuff. And yeah, it feels very authentic. It feels like a Fire Emblem experience, except again, instead of a strategy RPG, it's a hack and slash. And it's awesome. So yeah. But yeah, in addition to that though, I have been playing um, on my PC. Played a little horror game I got sent a while back, but just recently played it called Janitor Bleeds. That one is an interesting one because that one's definitely more of a. When you look at it, it looks very retro because it's kind of got low polygonal graphics. Um, but it's unique. You go into this arcade, and I can't remember why. Um, I think it might just be because
you want to get the high score, obviously.
Well, yeah, obviously. But I think it was either you used to work there, or maybe you're a reporter. I don't remember exactly what your main character's doing there, but either way, you're there, and you've been hearing about this arcade game called Janitor Bleeds, that has been messing with people's minds. And you play the game a little bit. And it's very unique how it's done because at first I thought you were just playing this game with how it looked, but no, you're actually moving around this gigantic arcade type environment, and it's really surprisingly detailed and diverse, and just all the rooms you go into. And it's a couple hours long. It's just the right length, honestly, for what it should be. And so, yeah, you're going to be going back and forth between this sort of survival horror experience and playing this arcade game. And while you're playing the arcade game, things start to happen in the real world. So I didn't notice this at first, but I started to notice as the layouts of the game were kind of the similar of the layouts of the rooms within the building you were in. So let's just say, once you're in the arcade game of Janitor Bleeds, you use the left mouse button to clean up a certain mess that was blocking a door, and then once you get out of the game, you look over to your right, and then there it is. Now you have access to that doorway. You can go into the room over, in the arcade. Before you couldn't because there was all this stuff in the way, right? But because you cleaned it up in the game, in the real world, now it's cleaned up too, So it's really cool how it intersects like that, um, or overlaps as well. So, but yeah, and then all this crazy stuff starts happening, and there's this crazy glitchy monster that you see, and uh, it's unnerving, honestly, that game. I mean, for something that's very indie and very low budget, they made it work. They made every single cent count for a game like that, and I appreciate it. It feels very I don't want to say fresh, but it feels very polished for what it is, and they were definitely passionate about what they were making, and they made something that I think definitely stands out because we've been seeing a lot more of these games lately, these sort of low polygonal PS1 graphic type games. It's become an art form into its own, and I love them. I love where the sort of indie scene has been going with that. Um, but this one definitely sticks out for sure. Amongst all of them. And yeah, it's great. The controls are simple. It feels fair so far. I'm at a part right now where it is difficult, but I don't it's not, you know, a make or break part of the game. I think it's just something that you just have to try a couple times, do some trial and error, and then you eventually pass it. But yeah, no, it's awesome. Really enjoying what I've been playing so far. Again, it's not a long game. I'm pretty much at the end. But yeah, I recommend that one if you're looking for just a nice indie uh retro horror experience. It's awesome. Uh, but yeah, in addition to that, been playing AI The Somnium Files. This is a game made by the good folks behind Zero Escape, so immediately I'm clicking with it, and it's because I love those games so much. It's some of my favorite games of all time, and but this one's more detective heavy. So you're going to be looking around, and you're going to be going into people's dreams to try to uncover certain information, and then in the real world, you're just, you're going from for case to case and crime scene to crime scene and sort of doing sort of like a Detroit Become Human sort of thing where you're just kind of scanning the environment. You have a special eye called Iba, and she's really funny. She's really cool, and sometimes the eye will pop out, and make this sort of Digimon looking form. She has a human form as well, but otherwise, when she pops out of this dude's eye, he's just kind of like looking around with one eye like this. She's this cute little Digimon looking thing, and but yeah, the dialogue is just super well written, which is to be expected because the Zero Escape games, for anyone who's played that, those are brilliant games. But yeah, they're usually escape room games, very puzzle heavy. These is also very puzzle heavy, but not so much escape room. You're not on the verge of death. But the puzzles are very much still there. The dialogue is super well written. It's dialogue heavy as well. So, expect something like a visual novel, but definitely with more, panache to it. So, and finesse. So, but eventually you can, walk around sort of in this person sort of perspective, and it's really neat. It's really, really neat. I love it. And the new one just came out last week. I did get it on PC. Actually, I did not get it on Switch this time. And but yeah, I've been playing the Switch version because I wanted to just kind of go back into this, refresh my memory, and give it the proper time of day before I jump into the second one. Because again, I love the Zero Escape games, and if you love those games, you're gonna love these. Even though they are slightly different, but the vibe is still there. And again, it's just so well written and the stories are just fantastic. So yeah, then but once I'm done with this, then I'll jump into Nirvana Initiative, which is the new one, and then so yeah, I'll talk about that in the future in a future podcast. So
cool.
But yeah, speaking of puzzles, I played and beat the Turing Test on Xbox a couple days ago. I got this game years ago on PC, played it, loved it, never beat it though. It was just one of those games I just kind of fell out of after a while. And at the time, I remember thinking it was just so incredibly difficult, but I don't know what happened. I don't know if I just got like galaxy brain over the last couple of years or what, but I was running through this thing. Like I ran through this thing like it was nothing. I mean, there were a couple levels where like I was like, I was definitely stumped. But I never had to look anything up. For the most part, I was just kind of like, okay, that makes sense. That. Okay, cool. It's interesting though because for something called the Turing test, you would expect, as a Turing test is, a human versus a computer, and there's an element of that narratively speaking, but puzzle wise, what you're going through definitely feels more like Cube. If for anyone who's familiar, with Cube, I don't want to say Portal because it's not really like Portal, but more like Cube. Um, so, and Cube is brilliant as well. Please play that if you haven't and you love puzzle games. Um, but yeah, play the Turing test, beat that in a couple hours on Xbox, and then I was only missing one achievement, so I got that. Thankfully, it's just I just missed like a little optional thing in the beginning of the game somehow. But yeah, I got the platinum slash 1,000 games score on that, and yeah, great game. It's from Square Enix's collective uh, thing that they do where they publish indie games. And yeah, it's great. That game still holds up, like graphically, like because it's not optimized for Series S at all. Um, but it looked fantastic. Playing it still, and yeah. But I remember it looking pretty good on PC too. But yeah, the game holds up well. The story won't blow you away, but it's It's good for what it is, and yeah, I mean it's a solid puzzle game. Highly recommend it. And it goes on sale all the time. I mean, you see it on sale on Switch all the time for like $3. That probably the same thing happens on PC, if not cheaper, probably.
Yeah.
So probably in a bundle too, you can get one. So yeah, highly recommend Turing Test. It's great. Played that on Xbox recently. Awesome. Um, but again, speaking of puzzle games, the Godfather, I think, of all puzzle games, recently came out on the Switch, and my girlfriend surprised me with that. Because the Direct happened, Nintendo Direct happened, which we'll get to the news of that. Uh, what was that? Was it last Thursday or something like that?
Something
Maybe
like that. Yeah, it was one day last week, 28th, I guess.
28th.
It was
Okay,
28th.
gotcha. So a couple days ago, almost a week ago, and yeah, one of the surprise announcements was Portal Companion Collection, which we knew was coming. But the announcement for that particular direct a couple days ago was that it was releasing that day, right?
Yeah.
So, but it was really early in the morning. It was 6 a.m. Pacific time, and I wasn't prepared to get up that early for a mini. For the E3 direct, sure, but for a mini, no, I'm good. So, but I was surprised that when I woke up, that my girlfriend surprised me with I just noticed, Portal 1 and 2 was installed on my Switch. So I was like, all right, awesome. I was super excited. And I've been playing that like crazy. And I was actually playing some Portal 2 before we got on the podcast today. And yeah, beat Portal 1 and I mean Portal 1, I never remembered it being that short. That game was
Oh, it's a
surprisingly short.
very short game.
Yeah, it really was. Yeah.
Like I beat it in I think my total playtime was like 2 hours and a couple minutes, something
Yeah.
like that.
Especially
I
if
was
you've
like,
already played it and aren't having to struggle with figuring out how to
yeah,
do any of the puzzles, you can go through that game very fast.
yeah, yeah. And to be fair, I've played these games. This must have been the 40th time I've played this game. Like I love those games. I love Portal. I really do. There's some of my favorite games of all time. And I mean, at some point I want to get Portal tattoos. I don't have any tattoos, but I would like to have Portal
And
tattoos.
Portal's on
So,
the list of, hey, we can't count to 3 games from Valve, so
unfortunately, yeah. One day though, hopefully one day, but maybe not. Who knows? But uh but yeah, it runs and looks great on the Switch, man. Like I was surprised. Like I mean, well, maybe I shouldn't be surprised 'cause they're very old games, but it feels enhanced. Like if like the shading looks better, the reflections look so much better. I mean, and it's crisp on the Switch, both in handheld and on TV. It's definitely native, for sure, 1080p or 720 in handheld, and it's so crisp. The game looks beautiful, running slick 60 frames per second, with no budging at all. I mean, the optimization is really on point with this. Not only that, but the bonuses that they've added have been really awesome. They have bonus levels, but also developer commentary, which I enjoyed listening to as I was giving it a second playthrough already for the first Portal, and yeah, but yeah, then so I'm almost done with Portal 2 now, and yeah, I mean it's just as great as I remember it, and I'll never not remember it being phenomenal, and yeah, no, it's Portal, man. Portal was so influential to the puzzle genre. I mean, now that is the game now that every time you see something that is even remotely related to some sort of dimension shifting, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Oh, it's sort of like Portal.
Yeah.
It's kind of like it did that with puzzle games, kind of like what the Souls games did for, sort of I don't know, what would you put them under? Action games, RPGs, maybe something like that. What would you say
they
about
have
that?
elements of all of those. You could feel
Yeah,
like Zelda games, like this.
that's true. Yeah,
That was
that's
kind
true.
of
Yeah,
like
so
his one of his inspirations for him. So like, yeah, they have
yeah,
elements from a lot of things, and then sort of their own unique things about
yeah,
them that they've developed from game to game to game too. So yeah.
yeah. So
But some of
so
them
yeah,
are
I
more
mean,
actiony than others. Like some of them are a lot
that's
more methodical, like the Dark Souls or something. Then you got like
yeah,
Bloodborne, that's kind of similar but faster, and then you have like Sekiro, that's a completely different kind of things combat wise. So it's definitely more focused on action. But yeah, like they have their different flavors.
yeah. But yeah, I mean, just with how influential those have been, they've become sort of the template for their respective genres, right? So, like you were saying, it's just like, people are just like, oh, it's like Zelda. Oh, it's a Souls like, oh, yeah, that's like Portal. I mean, that's, it it is on the Mount Rushmore of that genre, basically, So, yeah, but it's still incredible as always, and I love Portal. The humor still to this day holds up. It's still fantastic.
Oh man, like GLaDOS is so scathingly sarcastic. It's so great.
Yeah, GLaDOS is great. GLaDOS is great. Yeah, it's because there's a lot of like dark humor to it, but it's so good. It's also brilliantly written and cleverly done, and yeah, and everything with Cave Johnson too. It's just hilarious.
Oh yeah, like the
But
second game was definitely an upgrade in terms of okay, we actually are going to write a lot more of a story
yeah,
for it versus just there's a little bit of a story of Portal 1, but it's more just about the personality of this AI that's talking to you as you're going through all these tests, and then there's like environmental storytelling, but they have more of the oh hey, this is a thing, let's make a real like more cinematic kind of a story plus all the puzzles into.
yeah.
And then, man, you get like freaking J.K. Simmons to be the voice of one of your characters. That is gonna be awesome. Like he's so funny.
Yeah, him, and then
Stephen
Stephen
Merchant
Merchant
also.
as
Yeah.
as Wheatley. Yeah, it's so good, so good. It's just been nonstop laughs and just smiles, really, just playing that game.
It's another game that makes you
great.
realize that like comedy in video games is hard. So good comedic video games don't happen all that often. But when they do, man, they're so good.
Yeah. But yeah. So now we're going more on the racing side of things. So recently, and as in recently, I mean last night, I played a little bit of the closed beta finally because I got invited to it finally of Disney Speedstorm because I wanted to try that. The new, it's going to be a free-to-play game by Gameloft, and most people probably know them from doing the Asphalt games. Now those games are, if you've never played those games, they're oh my God, they're high octane like action-packed racing games. I mean, you are going fast in those games, but they're fantastic games. The most important part, I think, of those games isn't just the fact that they look cool and they play great, but it's that they control so good. Like they are what you expect from an arcade racer, like down to a T. Um, and they just make it feel fantastic. And Disney Speedstorm is no different. It feels and controls exactly like those games, except it has a Disney sort of skin on it. And yeah, the UI is fantastic. They don't let you play with too many characters at the moment. I've played with Mickey Mouse, Hercules, Jack Sparrow, and Elizabeth Shaw, and yeah, that's it. But it's really cool. It's like surprisingly in depth. You can without being too complex or confusing. You get these little chips, also they call it, and those you can add to your sort of crew, your race crew. And what they do is they sort of act as sort of enhancements to your overall character stats. So which is really really cool. So let's just say like not Donald Duck, but uh, let's just say Scrooge McDuck. Yeah. So and you'll get a chip for him or Minnie Mouse, right? And then you can apply them to whichever character you would like, and then you can get, let's just say, either a speed boost or a drifting enhancement, stuff like that. If you add them to your team, it's really really cool. And the customization is good. It's not deep, but it's not shallow either. It's what you would expect. It's more than I was expecting, honestly, for a game like this, which I appreciate. I'm sure it's only going to grow and grow and grow. Just seeing what they've done with, their previous games, not just Asphalt, but they, just a lot of Gameloft games in general. They're very good at optimization, so the game runs great, looks great, um, and yeah, I couldn't access too much. There's a lot that I wanted to see. They are going to have a season pass as well, or not a season pass, but a battle pass. And the currencies don't really work for much of anything at the moment. It's really just go in there, race, see how it feels, see how it looks. The track designs, which are always some of the most important things for me on an arcade racer like this, are fantastic. The way they're themed around Pirates of the Caribbean and well, Hercules and Jungle Book and things like that. It's so so well designed, and it feels great. My biggest issue, really, if there's one thing I got to complain about so far with this closed beta, is like the rubber banding is a little ridiculous. It is a little ridiculous. Like it feels unnatural. It doesn't feel organic at all. It feels unnatural, and it just feels.
Oh, it's
forced.
Mario Kart.
Yeah.
But even I just have to throw some shade.
Yeah, I mean, this is even
Ouch.
worse. If
it's worse than Mario Kart, then man.
Well, I mean, I don't personally feel that way with Mario Kart. Maybe because I don't know. Maybe because with Mario Kart 8 in particular, some of the older ones, yes, they got.
Yeah, it definitely varies per Mario Kart title for sure.
Yeah, like definitely. Like I think Wii and 64 are probably the worst when it comes to their rubber banding. But with 8 in particular, I thought that was pretty well balanced. But the rubber banding in this though with Disney Speedstorm, my God, like something needs to be done with like it is egregious. Like it's bad.
You literally see rubber bands attached to your car.
Yeah. You literally see them. Oh my God, you even hear them.
You look in the rearview mirror and they're like, "Hey, thanks, buddy.
Yeah,
I was way back there. You pulled me all the way up.
Thanks for the slipstream 3 miles away."
Yeah.
I was on a completely different track, and somehow I made it all the way up here.
I told you I'd make it back by dinner, man. I told you. But yeah, no, it's the rubber banding is like, oh my Lord! Like every time I was like, there's no way, there's no way, there's no way. You know, especially with all the boosts I was getting, because with games like this, like I've always been great at drifting. So and the drifting feels fantastic in this game. So I got those boosts down to a T already, and but somehow I would look behind me too, and all of a sudden, no boost, just all of a sudden, just magnetized, right by me and slingshotting, mind you, not just rubber banding, but slingshotting past me. I'm like, that's not how that
With
works.
a little like bicycle bell noise as they pass you, just for extra insult. Ching ching.
My God, it's all they're missing now is a pink mustache.
You just need to enter the cheat code to get the light cycle, and then you can win anything.
That's true.
Because then you're just putting barriers behind you the whole time, and they have to crash into it. And they're like, "We weren't in this movie. We don't know how to handle this."
Yeah. But speaking of not in this movie, I'll tell you what's not in this game. Surprisingly, is some of the characters from Wreck-It Ralph. Now they are going to be adding more over time. It's going to be a live service free-to-play game, so of course they're going to add more. You know what I mean? But
like it's Disney and Pixar stuff is supposed to be what's in this game, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
So like they got to put cars in there at some point. If they don't put them in, what are you doing?
Yeah, you're definitely gonna have them. You're definitely gonna have Vanellope, and I'm trying to remember what her name was. Whoever Gal Gadot's character was in Wreck-It Ralph.
I don't remember.
Name was like.
It's been so long since I've seen that movie. I do not remember.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. So.
Her name was like Swap or something. A Swap, Shank, something like that. I don't know. Something with an S. I remember. It's like one syllable, and like starts with an S. I don't know,
but anyway.
But yeah, but I'm sure like they'll both be in there at some point. If not, Wreck-It Ralph himself will probably be in there. But yeah, really enjoyed what I played so far. It looks great. Super clean UI, and yeah, I can tell I'm really gonna like be in love with it. Like once it officially comes out. So yeah, I'm just hoping it's cross progression again outside of the rubber banding, which I hope they fix. I'm really hoping it's cross progression because I would like to go from my PC to my Xbox to my Switch seamlessly. Otherwise, but GameLoft so far has not done that. But I'm hoping with now that technology has gotten us to a point now where we can do that, and this is a new game that isn't even out yet, that this is something that they end up implementing. So.
I just had a goofy idea. What if they bring in Herbie the Love Bug, but not as a car that's driving, but it's a character that's driving a car somehow? How weird would that be?
I'm open to it.
That would be very weird.
Carception, yes, let's do it. That's just the weird places my brain goes. It's like, oh, that'd be weird.
But yeah, no, it's a Disney Speedstorm. Great time. You can try getting into the closed beta right now. Before you had to go to their website, but now you can just go, if I'm not mistaken, to their Steam page and just ask, or like you can request access, and then you'll get a notification I've heard some people getting access like immediately. Like there's no waiting. Like not even an email. It's just like right away the moment you click the button. Okay, enjoy. It just gets added to your library. But so yeah, try it out. It's worth trying. And yes, but I didn't want to invest too much time into it, even though I could have easily done that, because once this closed beta is done, they are going to be wiping all the uh, progress because they want everybody to start, the same day one, which I get it, but yeah, I'm just, so I'm not going to invest as much time into it now as I could, just because I don't want to get fatigued. But I also want to make sure that, um, if it's cross progression first. Otherwise, I'm going to have to choose where I want to play, basically, because I'm going to want to play on my Xbox, but I'm also going to want to play on my Switch when I'm laying in bed, so, and then even on my PC. So, again, cross progression is great for something like that, which at this point, every free-to-play live service title should be that way if you're going to be multi-platform. I don't,
I wish
over
every game
time
was like that.
is ridiculous.
Any game that was, like a third party game, I feel like it should have cross progression on it. But I know that's a pipe dream, but it would be nice.
Yeah. It's
no
becoming
matter
more
what system I could play on. Like the Ubisoft stuff. I really like that. That's very cool.
Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah. It's becoming more normalized, thankfully. But I think there's still progress to be made for sure.
Yeah.
Cross progress, some would say. So, but so, anyways, the last thing, just to get through really quick. So.
He says, and then has an existential crisis.
Yeah, I know, right?
So the last game I've been playing, also a racing game. This one I was looking forward to a degree. I had it on my watch list for a little bit, and I got sent a review code for it. So this is gonna kind of be my review. So, and I'll try to, for the sake of brevity, I'll try to keep it concise, but while still being informative. Now, this series has been around forever, probably since the late 90s, early 2000s. Actually, the first time I got my PS2, one of the first games I got for it was MX versus ATV. Right. And those games have been around for a very long time. Now, if I'm also not mistaken, they've also gone from developer to developer.
Yes.
And but they've always been part of THQ, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I think so.
And yeah. And it was also one of the first games I played online. I remember the PS2, before the PS2 Slim came out, they had that big sort of Ethernet brick. Do you remember that?
Yep. I still have one.
Yeah.
With a hard drive plugged into it, because you could plug a hard drive through
God.
it. Yeah, so what you had to have an old IED hard drive. So I've still got one with. I've still got my Final Fantasy. What was that 11? That was online.
I think it was 11 at the time.
And I've still got the box that had the hard drive and the game and had all that. You had to buy because you had to buy a hard drive with it. So.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, but this I've actually been a fan of MX versus ATV for a very, very long time, and just ATV games in general, because there's like ATV drift and tricks also. But the MX versus ATV to me were always the most fun, because it was always super cool, especially growing up, seeing just bikes against ATVs, and they were always crazy. And then later down the line, much like this, they also included UTVs as well, which are they look more like cars, basically. So it's like right in between an ATV and a generalized motor vehicle. So, but yeah, but those games the last couple entries have been hit or miss. And not only that, but those games alongside their spin-offs have also they've been recycling a lot of tracks, and it's been bothersome in a lot of ways, like with the MotoGP games, and I think the most recently was in Motocross 4, maybe. Because I own so many of these games at this point, they all sort of blend into each other. But yeah. Anyways, all these games, they've started to recycle themselves, and with MX versus ATV, they've started to lose a sense of identity, I feel, because they feel very shallow in a lot of ways. And now this one looked cool because it was more open and it was prettier, and it seemed like they were offering much more of a robust system and a robust campaign to it as well. Now, MX versus ATV Legends, which is the brand new game, it just came out a couple of days ago. I got access to this about maybe a week and a half ago. And one of the things I noticed right away was the trailers and stuff that you see is, I don't want to say false advertisement, but they're glorifying a lot of what's being done in that game in particular. They're glorifying a lot of the mechanics. They're glorifying a lot of the tracks, which there's not many. But at the very least, the tracks that are available are they're pretty well designed. They're pretty well designed. But after spending I don't even know how long with it, many hours, it ultimately is a buggy mess. I mean, I can't tell you, like, I would jump randomly and then all of a sudden just teleport straight to this guy. I don't know what's happening. Like, you want to talk about bad rubber banding? This is a game with bad rubber banding, actually.
Rubber banding to the sky.
Yeah, to the sky. I mean, and the physics are crazy too. I mean, this is beyond ragdoll. This is like, we're going into astrophysics at this point. I mean, this is it's, I mean, really, I mean, you're going to space and beyond. You're looking into dark matter. It's wild. Like, quantum physics. It's crazy. But it's the tracks themselves, at the very least, despite the bugginess, are entertaining to a degree. But the problem is with not many tracks and not much to unlock. It seems like there's a lot, but a lot of it is very uninventive and just not very exciting. And the progression system feels more or less um, just empty. There's not much motivation to keep going. There's not much reward. And the hub area that you're in is very open, and it's cool just riding around there. But ultimately, you just have this game that feels, I mean, I keep using the word, but empty, and it's too bad whether you're playing, on a motorbike, on an ATV, or on a UTV, the ATVs and the UTVs are the most fun, but unfortunately, it's just, you know, it's the most interesting part is this game. It was delayed about 2 or 3 times, right? And I'm not sure why, because I don't think much got done with that added time. Again, with all due respect, it's not much seems particularly different with the what they were showing, even a year ago. So they may have polished things up on a mechanical level, but again, with how buggy it is and with just how all over the place it is in terms of not only its lack of content, but what it is aiming to do on a technical level, which again they keep when you look at the trailers and stuff, they keep talking about how we have this, we have that, but it's unfortunately I found myself, despite many hours playing it, many hours playing it, I found myself by the time I was reaching an hour of straight playtime, I feel like I was pushing myself to do that. That wasn't happening organically. It was more so me forcing myself to play because I knew this was something that I had to assess for review, and I knew that this was something that I wanted to give the proper time of day. Because I mean that's what we try to do is we always try to we don't want to play no matter how bad a game is. It's not the worst game, but no matter how bad a game is, you don't want to you want to give it a proper assessment. I think we owe it to them, and to to professionalism and to writing and to journalism in general to give it a give it the time it deserves. Now, I think I've given it much more time than it deserves. And unfortunately, I've just found very little to enjoy here. And Yeah, I don't know. And I don't know what's happened either because it's not like, I get it with racing games, there's a formula, right? That makes it inherently a racing game, right? You start at the starting line and you go and you compete, fastest one, first one to the finish line wins, I mean, that's
Right.
what racing is. But there's something with MX versus ATV in particular that they used to be so fun because they used to be super arcadey, but with the controls in this in particular, they're just not very responsive and they're overly complex for a game that also considers itself to be an arcade title. Now, if you want something that's more of a simulation, go play Ride. Go play Ride or go play even like Assetto Corsa, even though it's not really an MX versus ATV thing, but still. But games like that, go play even that Monster Energy Motocross, whatever. I don't know, just play that even. Um, but this just feels so all over the place where they're trying to accommodate for both fans of simulation and fans of arcade. And so you're doing this weird sort of dual stick thing to not only turn, but to do tricks and to accelerate and to brake. And it's like, why are we doing all of this? You have triggers for a reason. Just use,
Right.
left trigger to brake, right trigger to accelerate, so on and so forth. But instead, it's just all over the place. It's all over the place, and it doesn't feel comfortable. And I think one of the most important parts when you're playing any game, for that matter, especially a racing game, is you want that comfort because you need to focus on the speed with so much happening on screen. You know, um, you need to be able to focus, but it's hard to focus when your fingers and thumbs are all over the place. And especially for a game like this, because even realistically, you want to talk about simulation. Even realistically, whether you're driving around a track or doing some off-roading like you are in MX versus ATV, it's a lot of the time you what are you doing? You're sitting there, you have your hand either on the, if you're on a bike you're doing this or, or on the wheel if you're in a behind, in a car or whatever. But, you're focusing, you're trying to be responsive to the turns and stuff like that, but ultimately you're staying pretty still for the most part. You're using your feet, using your hands, and you're using your eyes. But they're all, when you think about it, fairly stationary. Now on a bike, you kind of have that added task of, if you're turning, you kind of have to lean a little bit, right? Like with a motorbike, um, in order to turn properly. Um, but otherwise, it's fairly straightforward. It's like even when you're changing gears, so why am I am I going around this controller? I'm pressing more buttons in here than I am in Street Fighter. Why? Like that. Why am I doing so many combos in a racing game? That doesn't make sense to me. So it's unfortunate because I was looking forward to this game, and it is a budget title. It's the MSRP is $40 for the base game. They get higher up with the deluxe editions and whatnot, but it's unfortunate. I love THQ Nordic, and once again, shout out to THQ Nordic for sending this our way because we love them. Not just I think I speak for everyone. We love them. I love THQ Nordic. Really looking forward to um, Destroy All Humans 2 remake because I loved the original games so much, and I liked the first remake a lot too. So I'm looking forward to the second one. Um, love all the Darksiders games. I mean, I love THQ. I mean, I always look forward to everything they put out, but this was not it. This was not it. This was a swing and a miss for them, and it's unfortunate. If I had to rate it out of 5 at this very moment, I see it getting better? I see the potential. Will it happen? I don't know. But as of now, out of 5, I would probably give it. It's a struggle between 1.5 and 2 out of 5.
Oh, see, it's honestly. Even higher than that's higher than I thought you were going to give it.
Oh, really? Yeah.
-17.
Yeah. I mean, like, it's enjoyment can be had, but only in short spurts, but this is also a game that the way it's designed through its career mode and through its competitive play, it wants you to play and invest a lot of time into it. But this is not, I'm sorry, with the way that it currently is, the current state of it, it does not accommodate for that, and I don't think anybody's going to be willing to really put that much time in it, no matter how much of a fan they are, And if they do, I mean, I'm sorry to say it, but they're lying to themselves, because I mean, really, I mean, trying to be as nice as possible, but it's. I think ultimately they're lying to themselves, and there are far better MX versus ATV games out there. Thankfully, through the beauty of backwards compatibility on Xbox, there's a lot of great ones like MX versus ATV Alive. That's a great one. And of course, the original ones, like Off-Road Fury and stuff like that. So I love all those games. I have bought those games multiple times over. So, I'm an MX versus ATV fan, so I know what to expect. But this, unfortunately, just isn't. It's not it.
Yeah, and that's too bad because there's really nothing like that, out anymore.
Right, and that's the thing.
It's all Forza, Gran Turismo,
Right. Yeah, and those are fantastic. God knows anyone who listens to us, they know we love Forza especially. Yeah. But MX versus ATV really kind of has a monopoly in that sort of genre now. When you think about it, I mean, they there's not much in terms of stuff like that. There's other offerings that are usually digital only that are more lower budget, but they're not anything to write home about. MX versus ATV has a long legacy, rightfully so. But unfortunately, this was just a swing and a miss, and just ended up being delivered on an empty tank. Let's just say that. So yeah, it's unfortunate, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, that's my assessment on MX versus ATV Legends, and that's also what I've been playing. So.
All right, cool. Well, we'll just touch on the two news stories we have real quick. There was, as Dennis kind of said a little while ago, there was a Nintendo Direct Mini. Did anybody watch it? I didn't watch it.
I went back and rewatched it. Yeah, I mean, I didn't because I was asleep. But right. We did end up rewatching it. Yeah.
It was way early, and I was working, and I honestly forgot about it.
I remembered it like partway when it was on, partway through or something, and I threw it on like the side while I was doing other stuff, so I wasn't really like actively super paying attention to it.
Right. Yeah. So, but yeah, I didn't watch it. Was there anything that stood out, Dennis, to you other than I know they did the Mario Rabbids and they talked
that was
more
cool
about that Monster Hunter.
Yeah. Yeah, that was fine. I really the ones that stuck out the most to me. Well, I'm glad that we honestly, it's such a surprise, and it's not going to be one that you're expecting me to say. Well, the following two will be, but the one that I'm honestly like super stoked for is the Disney Dreamlight Valley, because honestly, that game it just looks relaxing, man. It looks like if they took Animal Crossing and The Sims and they just meshed them together, put a Disney skin over it, you can go around, hang out with people. You can go make your own farm. What? That's amazing. What? Yeah. I'm so stoked for this. So, yeah, and I think early access begins September
6th, I believe. Yeah.
September 6th. Okay. So that'll be on both PC and Switch, which I think this is the first time Switch has ever done an early access title, because usually you only ever see that on Xbox. They have the game previews, they call them. Mm-hmm. Because usually other platform holders, they don't allow for betas and stuff being sold. But I guess since it's a free to play, I guess it doesn't.
Yeah, really... I guess that doesn't matter since it's game off. It's free to play. It's Yeah, Nikki's looking forward to it too. So I mean,
super stoked, man. Super stoked.
I actually had the PR guys emailing me like 3 or 4 times last week going, what more info about it? Let me know. I'm like, well, what more info is there than what you showed me on the thing? But So I replied to him and said, sure, if you got more info, let me know. I don't know what it is, but I'm excited to find out.
Yeah, please. Yeah, and if we get codes, like, please, like, I'll take care of that. I'll be more than happy to do an early access review on that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm super stoked for that. And but the other two that really stood out, from what I can remember, anyways, I'm sure there's other ones, but the ones that come to mind right away, the two, Harvestella which is a new Square Enix.
That one looks pretty cool.
Yeah, new Square Enix RPG game, but has like a big emphasis on farming though. So kind of like Rune Factory, where it's like an RPG but big emphasis on farming.
Yeah, Rune Factory was definitely the vibe I got from that one, or at least the closest vibe. Yeah.
Yeah. And then the other one was oh my god, I'm trying to remember. We'll run down the list and let me...
Yeah, because I haven't, like I said, I hadn't watched it, so there's a lot of them that of course, Persona 5 and 4 and 3. Those
I saw that was hilarious to me because Game Pass stole all of their thunder for that one. They're so sad that Microsoft showed it like weeks ago. Because from them showing it at the end, it was like a one more thing. Hey, here's this cool stuff, and it was like, oh, okay, cool. Was the reaction I had to it because we already saw it was coming to Game Pass.
And then they already had said, it's coming to PlayStation 5 and Switch after the show anyway, because everybody was, well, why would they?
I was like, oh, hey, whether we just suddenly can now or whatever, we're doing the shotgun approach and putting Persona everywhere.
Yeah. Okay, I actually remember now. Dragon Quest Treasures was the other one.
Yeah, that one seemed like it was kind of interesting. I know Return to Monkey Island, a bunch of people, golly, the outrage of, I don't like the art style that doesn't.
The art's fine.
It's fine.
That's fine.
It's fine.
Like, what do you
Yeah. It's like, oh my gosh. I mean, it was just like, whatever. I don't know. People kill me. Which is our next story. But yeah, I mean, the rest of them, I really don't. Minecraft Legends, we figured that would come to Switch.
Well, yeah, we'd already seen it. That's like a few of the things. It's like, okay, we already seen it elsewhere, so it was known quantities or something. Like, okay, the was it Sunbreak expansion DLC?
Yeah, the Sunbreak Switch, we knew that was
for
coming.
Monster Hunter. It's like, well, we knew about that stuff already. It's like it's almost out, and at that point, the thing
Live
so
Live
like,
or
okay,
Live, whatever.
It's cool, I guess, but it wasn't anything crazy in the whole direction.
Yeah,
it wasn't like.
I guess that's why they call it a mini, because it was kind of like, well, and have it at 9 o'clock in the morning on the 28th, which is a Thursday.
Do they call it that to set your hype level? Should be mini hype level? Is that what it means?
Yeah, I guess. I mean, but it's good.
It's weird also because it was 25 minutes. Because like usually minis are like maybe like 10 minutes, right? But this was 25. This was the length of a standard direct.
Yeah,
right. So
yeah. Maybe they just called it a mini because it was 90% stuff we already knew. Sonic Frontiers and stuff like that. So,
gross.
Yeah, I know, right?
Sonic, you.
But yeah. But anyway, our last story. Oh my gosh, this made me so mad this week. It was just unbelievable. So, what's his name for Bloomberg came out.
Jason Schreier.
Yeah. He came out on like Monday or Tuesday and said, I have an insider that said in the next day or tomorrow or the day after, Sony is going to announce when Ragnarok's coming out. They're going to have a trailer for it. They're going to have gameplay for it. They're going to have a surprise state of play for it. Well, it didn't happen on like that Wednesday. And people just started tweeting at Quarry.
Barlow.
Yeah.
We got you.
Tweeting at him. Yeah, I'm terrible with names, so I'm glad somebody else has got the names. Tweeting at him, going, you need to announce this now, and it needs to be this and that, and he's like, we'll have something when we have something. Just be patient and chill out. And and people are. I mean, I saw one that was like, you need to announce this right now, or I'm going to sell my PlayStation 5 and or I'm going to buy an Xbox and this and that. And he goes, you should buy an Xbox. You need to broaden your horizons than not just play on PlayStation 5. I mean, he was taking it all with stride. It was it was in stride. It was really good. But then when it didn't happen the next day, one of the female members of the team that I follow on Twitter, she made a post about why are people, we're busting our butt to do this game and this and that and this, and my DMs are full of guys taking pictures of their penises and saying, you need to tell me when God of War Ragnarok is coming out right now. It's like,
was that a motivation for anything?
Yeah.
Like positive or negative? What is that? Like, why? Like, so stupid.
Yeah, and it's just like, they just lost their minds for days.
This is the part of social media that sucks, because you can have entitled little idiots who can just be out there spewing the most hateful stuff with pretty much no repercussions, and
because
they're
they
like
hide behind
the
an
smallest
avatar.
audience for any given thing, and they're like so destructive for something they supposedly are love it or looking forward to, or fans of. Like, no, you're not. Otherwise, you'd shut up and go away, you moron.
Yeah, it's
like you're not helping the people who are doing it. You're actively making it worse. For them.
It was just,
you're potentially making the thing that you want worse by doing this. So shut up.
Yeah, it's just like, and they're piling on Santa Monica Studios. I mean, and it was ridiculous. It was just like, what?
It's also ridiculous. Like, okay, so somebody said that they had some inside information that there was going to be an announcement, and that didn't turn out. So now you're yelling at the people making the game.
Yeah.
If you're gonna yell at anybody, be like, "Hey, why'd you get this date wrong, man? They were supposed to do a thing. Like, why did you tell us that?" And then it didn't happen. Like, that would still be stupid and sucky, but at least you'd be aiming it in a semi-understandable direction.
And this is why some of these
guys,
some of these so-called journalists and insiders just need to keep their mouths shut with stuff like that. And you know what? If they've got to leave...
Well, no, we're not going with that, John. Like, he had a thing. It was a thing that was like, hey, it's going to happen probably. I didn't read the thing, but what it should be automatically in normal people's brains like me, like, hey, I realize plans change. Even just my plans for like, hey, when am I going to buy groceries this week will change. Let alone something as big as this. Like, oh, whoops, somebody like misrendered the trailer that we made and it's all like screwed up at the end and we have to like push it back a day. Or, oh, wait, never mind, we're going to have to do something else different from our plans because XYZ. It's like things shift all the time. So if you get some inside information, it could be correct at the time that that person heard it, but by the time that rolls around, that could have changed like 3 times, even if it's just a few days. Like,
and,
come on.
And Sony has social media presence too, so if they read something like that, they're liable to go, well, you know what, we're not going to say anything about it right now. We're going to wait and let it bake for a little while longer and then bring it out.
I don't know that happens necessarily.
No,
right? If it does,
but
it's
I mean, it could.
Very rare.
Right.
It'd be more like, oh, well, they guessed it. Oh, well, cool. Like, it's not really any skin off their nose. Because,
I don't know.
Again, big majority of people are not going to have heard that at all. They'd just be like, here's the announcement. Cool. They wouldn't have heard anything leading up to it. Like, if you're someone who doesn't pay attention to video game news at all or something, just be like, oh, hey, then across Twitter or wherever social media you're on, you see like, hey, they announced the God of War release date. That's when you would see it. You wouldn't see any of this preamble or any nonsense.
Yeah. And I mean, I've seen some devs who have said, yeah, this has been happening to us for 6 months and we've left Twitter. We're not posting anything else on social media about our game until the day it comes out. We're not going to because we're tired of it. And it's sad. It's just sad. That's why I'm on Twitter more than anything, is to learn stuff like this. When this game is coming out, when that game's coming out, follow this developer for this or that.
Yeah,
but
it's just social media makes it really easy for people to just not have respect for other people and just be heinous. And it's like, why? It's not how you don't actually care about this thing you claim to care about. All you care about is causing chaos on the internet, and it's so dumb.
Well, and it's easy to hide behind an avatar and a name that and there's no repercussions because there's no face in front of you. It's just
really have nothing better to do.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. He's high pitched again. See, I couldn't take.
That was so good. It was you have nothing better to do was really like squirrel voice.
Yeah,
like
it took me for a minute. It was like, because I almost just went, What is
Thanks, Discord.
John's looking around.
Love you.
Yeah, it was like, yeah. Go back at 2 hours and 38 or 37 minutes. You'll go back in the feed and watch that because it was hilarious.
Okay.
But yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like, these are the ones that when people classify some of us as living in the basement, these are the guys that I picture living in the basement. It's like
yeah, it's a minority of people.
Anyways.
Yeah. There's like just those few really loud people who are entitled because, oh man, I'm gonna spend $60 on this game. Yeah, so yeah, like. How many millions of other copies are they going to sell? They don't care about your $60. You are not entitled to anything. Just calm down.
But to demand, who are you to demand to a multi-billion-dollar company anything? I mean, that's the thing. What are you the president of the United States? I don't know.
I'm the emperor of the universe. Ha!
I guess. I don't know. They've really got to find something better to do with their time than just set on.
Well, like your lack of a purchase, I promise you, will not bring them under. No. I promise you.
No.
So
it hadn't yet, and I didn't buy God of War, and it didn't. The company didn't fold
and the
because
fact
I
that
didn't
you're
buy
gonna
it.
like, oh man, I'm gonna spend money on your game doesn't entitle you to anything. Like, you know how much money gets invested in a game just being made before there's any sales? Like, that doesn't matter, guys. Come on.
And the numbers and the quote unquote sales numbers that you see anyway are the numbers of copies that stores have bought. It's not what's physically went out the door.
It depends on which number you're looking at, but some of those are that.
So they sold 15 million copies of it, but that doesn't mean it's in 15 million copies, and because they don't care. Once
for God of War though, yeah, it does.
Yeah, but once those copies ship out of the warehouse, Sony doesn't care anymore. They've got their money for the games. They don't care if they sit on the shelf. Of course they sell, but they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. They've already got their money. It's like when people, oh man, this game dropped so much in price, and it's the stores already bought the game for X amount of dollars, so they made the companies made their money. Doesn't matter if the store sells it for $20 or $60. They've already the publishers already made their money when they sold that when Walmart bought that game from them. For $50 or $55 or however much they pay for them. Very little, there's very little markup in games. So, I mean, it's even less now, I'm sure, for a $70 game. It used to be $5. That's what the markup was $5 a game for every copy sold. So it's not a lot of money, but I don't know. People kill me with that stuff and the numbers, and they think they know more than a $1 billion company does. And guess what? They don't.
Hey, guess what? You're one person, and that company's made up of many people who are all very good at what they do.
And stop harassing people, especially harassing women or something. Come on.
Just harassing anybody. Just have respect for people, man. Yeah. Like, you wouldn't want anyone doing that to you, so just stop it.
It's not hard, but, apparently it is, so. All right, well, has anybody got anything else before we call that a show? It's on that note. I think that's a good place to end. So
we're gonna end it on the positive note? Yeah, whatever that note was.
Some kind of positive note. But anyway, but yeah, we should be back in 2 weeks. Unless something comes up between now and then, I wouldn't see why not. Like I always say, follow us on Twitter at @GL_podcast. That way you'll know a couple hours before we go live if you want to.
God, are you saying that sometimes plans change?
Oh, I know, right?
Oh no, man! I'm gonna have to yell at you on Twitter for that one.
Yeah, I know, right? You were lucky because I thought my niece was going to come over and spend the night, and it was going to be, well, if she's going to spend the night, we're not recording tonight. So there was about an hour before the show started. It was looking real hairy, but she decided to go home. So it was. She could have. I'm not complaining if she would have, but But yeah, of course things change. But if you want to join us live, or like I say, if you subscribe to us on on your podcatcher, you'll get the show whenever I upload it. So, which is usually the next day. But I think last time we recorded on a Wednesday, and I didn't upload it till a Sunday. So yeah, I kind of forgot. But it's what happens when you record in the middle of the week that you're not usually used to recording it. So.
It is what it is.
Yeah, it's all right. So no problem. We'll let that one slide. So, all right, guys. Well, thanks a lot for listening and hanging out with us, and we will catch you all next time.
Take care.